I'll call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise. Have Supervisor Gould lead us in a prayer, and Supervisor Bishop, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Feel free to join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you and praise you today, Lord, for this great nation that you've given us, for this state that you've given us, and for this county that you've given us, Lord, this experiment in self-government. Please give us the wisdom and guidance to run it properly, Lord. Watch over our county employees. Many of them have dangerous jobs. Lord, bring them home safely to the loving arms of their families. Watch over our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and our guardians of the space. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Join me. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America unto the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held July 15, 2024 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Official business to come before the board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Mr. Esplin?
Good morning, Chairman. I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee and or legislative reports. Well, first of all, is Supervisor Johnson on the line?
I'm here.
Okay, he's there. Do you have anything this morning to report, Supervisor Johnson?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Very good. Supervisor Bishop?
No report.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A couple of water updates. First, there's rumors of a special session to tackle some modifications to the Arizona Groundwater Code, rural water, and then ag to urban. I think we're hearing, if that does occur, maybe by mid-August, but we're not quite sure. We're monitoring that, and obviously Mojave County's been in this advocacy effort since at least 2015 or so with Supervisor Watson and this board, prior board. So we're still going to advocate for that. There's a big project that has been proposed. We've just gotten an application for some sort of a pumped storage project in the Red Lake area north of Kingman in Val Vista. It's the same area that the hydrogen fuels production folks tried to come in. So I do have a briefing with staff this week, tomorrow, I believe, and we're going to be mentioning it on the 11th at the Mojave County Public Lands Commission as well. We're going to be taking that up, and we'll bring any information that staff has discovered to this board. The last thing I'd like to ask is, he didn't include it in his legal report, but I'd asked Attorney Esplin if he could just give the board and the public the latest where we're at and what needs to happen or what's going to happen in the Greenstone to Queen Creek water transfer. I know that is still in court.
The only report I have is that we're waiting for the court to issue a ruling. So we're on the holding pattern,
and we're expecting that by maybe mid-July is what I've heard.
I mean, anybody guess when the judge will rule? I can't say.
Got it. That's all I have, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, apparently, the mystery of the $32,000 doorbell has been solved. My assistant noticed back in April 23, while going through the procurement report, that we had wrote a check for $33,467.64 to Logisticals Inc. out of Minnesota or Michigan, for miscellaneous hardware for a single doorbell kit on behalf of Information Technology. I thought that was a rather expensive doorbell. I had mentioned this several times. No one clued into it until I used it at a candidate forum and it made it into the newspaper. Now I have my answer. Apparently, it was a computer server and software, which still begs the question is, why is it listed as a doorbell? But at least we know that we might have trouble listing things properly, but we didn't spend $33,000 on a doorbell. Interesting. I wish somebody would answer my question when it was brought up in a meeting rather than brought up in the newspaper. Thank you, Madam Chairman. That is all.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad we straightened that out because I've been getting some calls about it. I was in the audience when I heard it and my ears picked up, so thank you very much. Okay, and I don't have anything this morning, so let's go on. We have no lobbyist report today. How about county manager's report?
Good morning, Chairman. Board members, no report today either.
Okay, very good. Okay, on to the call to public. A public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. You guys know the rest. So we're going to start with Mr. Jim Fuller. And then after Mr. Fuller, Mr. Stang, and then Chuck DeShazer.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors, those that are present here. I just want to thank you, Hildy, for being so cordial to me on Saturday. We ran into each other a couple times, even though we're enemies in the political field. And we do have a little bit of a personal beef, and I'm waiting for your version. So I'll leave it at that. But I've been politically involved with Mojave County Republican Central Committee. It's kind of like it's on fire since I put up a picture of a couple of people, and so I hate to see it go that way. I like to see it tuned down and get through our primaries, get Trump elected, get our country back on track. I am a Christian. I don't believe there's such a thing as a perfect Christian. I make mistakes, and I do my best to fix them. When it comes to the political signs, I got a I gotta find this thing here. Hang on, as my minutes go away. The First Amendment, it provides Congress to make no law respecting and establishing a religion or prohibit its free exercise. It protects freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. And also I got the Second Amendment here, so we can bear arms so we can go shoot a deer, but we know it's not for that. But I made a switch in my political ways with my candidate. She's actually running against Hildy, and so the people will make a choice here on the 30th to see who gets to go forward for the for the November 5th. But I just sense, and I talked to Ron in Bullhead City. We have a corner there where we hang out on Highway 95 and do that. At our picnic, I took a sign with me, and I got quite a bit of trouble for that. And I don't think we should be able to, we should be able to freely express that. And there was a lot of bad words said. I hope they'll tune it down. I'll do my best to cool things off. So thank you for your time, and I hope the best for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Okay, Mr. Stang, and then Mr. DeShazer.
Morning, Supervisors. Armin Schlange, Fort Mojave, Arizona, aka the German. We had just now this nice fire from needle. Started in a neighborhood but wasn't cleaned up. So I got a problem with that. We have a neighborhood where it's still a junkyard on 4201 Valencia.
Excuse me, is the microphone on, Laura? Can you go closer to the microphone?
On 4201, it's not
I think
working.
it's on. Not on. 1 second. Well, you'll get your time.
It's on green.
Okay, get really real. I'm sorry.
Okay, on 4201 Valencia, there's still a junkyard. My neighbor has to deal with rats all of a sudden.
He's a low talker.
Okay, 4201, there's still a junkyard. They have rats in the yard now. My neighbor has to deal with rats, mice, and all kind of rodents coming from that property. So I think that property needs to be cleaned up before they start a fire. And who's going to pay for all the damages then? I don't know who's paying for all the effort of our fire departments from the Needles fire. You know, I think the property owner should be held responsible. And then the other thing is, I have a problem with the fire department, especially with the fire board, going out and having all this stuff about this pickup plant, and the only thing they're looking for is revenue. They're not thinking about the people in the neighborhoods. Nothing at all. And the third thing, the bridge to nowhere. I drove the bridge. I got passed by 7 cars in a no passing zone. That's ridiculous. If someone has to go to the side of the road, they drive right down the ditch. So something needs to be done about that bridge. Either they're going to have Bullhead PD sitting there writing tickets for passing in a no passing zone, or writing everybody up there what drives over 35. Thank you.
Very much. Mr. DeShazer, then Chris Rodardi, and then Mr. Beffert.
Hello. Chuck DeShazer, Topak, Arizona. I'm here to bring up a subject that's supposed to be on the agenda for August 5th that was moved from the first Board of Supervisors meeting in June. And the reason I'm bringing it up, it's concerning an automation fee that they have over at Development Services. The reason I'm interested in it is, one, I had to pay an automation fee on the one and only building permit I've ever pulled in this county back in 2020 for a rabbit hutch. It was a $40 fee at that time. Development Services, doing their job the way they regularly do it, has said that my final inspection was signed off as a mistake, so they've since said my permit's no good. But looking back on it, they cannot find any of the information that I currently have because they shredded it. So how is that automated? It didn't go to the cloud or anywhere else. They just shredded it, and I have the complete permit package, but they don't. This has been a fee that's been going on since 2006. So you would have thought in 14 years they would have figured something out on how to keep information in the cloud or wherever they're going to put it. They started charging the fee before the first iPhone ever existed. So the other reason I bring this up is I believe there's either collusion, conspiracy, corruption, or just plain political interference here. Why was this moved from the June 5th to the August 5th after the primary elections, except for the fact that we have a chief building official that is running for one of your seats, and he wouldn't want to answer questions probably concerning an automation fee and how it was they're trying to get it proposed to increase by to a minimum of $40 and on up to 3.5%. So, you know, he wants to get more money from you, and that's not good for politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think the microphone just got better as well. Okay, we have Chris Rodardi, and then Greg Beffert, and then Butch Merriweather.
Chris Rodardi, Mojave County taxpayer. In Galatians 4:16, we read, "Have I then become your enemy by telling the truth?" At the last meeting, we witnessed yet another assault on the First Amendment. at the start of the call to the public, Chairman Angus, chomping at the bit, launched into a reprimand of we the people concerning our bad behavior at this podium. Itching to infringe, she announced a new set of rules regarding our right to redress. With righteous indignation, she scolded and admonished us. It took a motion from Supervisor Gould to calm her down and restore sanity. But ladies and gentlemen, this is tyranny. Trying to squelch our voices, attempting to crush opposing viewpoints, trying to shut us up for speaking against the support of any foreign government. This is what the founders warned us about, and it's happening right here in Mojave County. Speaking of those founders, here's what a few of them had to say. Benjamin Franklin: without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech. John Adams said, let us dare to read, think, speak, and write. From George Washington, for if men are to be precluded from offering their sentiments on a matter that may involve the most serious and alarming consequences that can invite the consideration of mankind, reason is of no use to us. The freedom of speech may be taken away, and dumb and silent, we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. Again, from Benjamin Franklin at age 16, in those wretched countries where a man cannot call his tongue his own, he can scarce call anything his own. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech, a thing terrible to public traitors. Ladies and gentlemen, America is in grave danger. We are on the verge of World War III. This is what shutting down our voices has led to. Those of us brave enough to stand for truth are being assaulted and will continue to be. It's only going to get worse. Mojave County, hear my voice, hear my words. We will not be silenced.
Okay, Mr. Beffert, and then Butch Merriweather, and then Don Martin.
Supervisors, for the record, Greg Beffert. The last meeting, we had the discussion that Chris just brought up about free speech. And since that time, I produced a video entitled Free Speech Hypocrisy. And it's up on my website at desertsagepodcast.com. I don't charge anything for my videos, never have, and I never will. So we can take the, commercial angle out of, the attempt to stifle free speech last time, Supervisor Lingenfelter. That angle isn't going to work for me. I'm not going to benefit commercially from my speech at all. Now back to, this political grandstanding that's going on here now, with this free speech issue. We had Supervisor, Angus talk about the COVID, debacle. She admitted that we overstepped. Supervisor Bishop here admitted that we made mistakes. If we had it to do over, we'd do it again. Then she went and tried to minimize, her involvement of it as the chair, her role in it, and her responsibilities, and her knowledge as a law enforcement professional. And I talked to you about interviewing people in prison. It's the same tactics that psychopaths use. I know. Interviewed them in a California state prison. As a detective, same tactics. Minimize, deflect, all of it. Just, distract. And what we saw, at the meeting before when we talked about COVID, Supervisor Angus said, can we finally get these stickers off the walls, please? I've been up here since October telling you about not only that, but the vaccines that are still in this community that you guys refuse to remove, that are no longer vaccines. And you know it. They're a danger. And you continue to support it. You should resign. You should resign. Supervisor Johnson, you should resign. I've been up here telling the truth, and I get attacked online by these punk keyboard warriors who can't defend truth because they won't accept the truth. They won't look at themselves. Everybody wants change, but when it comes time to who's willing to change, then you hear crickets. And that goes for the Republican Central Committee There weren't 5 Democrats up here during COVID. You can't blame them. This was 5 Republicans up here. You need to take a look at yourselves. We are the problem. And until you're willing to question what you thought was the truth, now that it's finally coming out, are you willing to question your own truths? And if you are, you find out that what they did was wrong. Why am I the only one up here asking for the resignation? Why is that? Mojave County Republicans, conservatives, Christians? Why is that? Again, crickets. You want to examine your own beliefs? I'll be back.
Thank you, Butch Merriweather, and then Don Martin, and then Chris Shoppers. Oh, after that, we'll go to Jennifer Esposito. I want to keep the power plant stuff together. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Butch Merriweather. I live at 2225 South Dome Road, Golden Valley, Arizona, 86413. Well, that's a hard act to follow, those last two. But I'm coming up here just to say, for the most part, I think the supervisors are doing a good job attempting to take care of and represent the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merriweather. Don Martin, then we're going to have Jennifer Esposito.
Good morning, supervisors and Chairman Angus. My name's Don Martin. I live in Kingman. What I want to talk about today is an article that came up about the ballot and the hand counting thing. I noticed when I was there on Thursday all day, there was only one supervisor that was there, and that was Supervisor Bishop, and she watched the whole procedure. I'm sure, hopefully, you've all been through Alan Timbert's show what he does, because it is truly impressive. I've said from the beginning that I thought hand counts were a waste of time, a waste of money. It come out, Mr. Timbert has done 66 elections in Mojave County. He's never had one problem. And yet we have people standing here demanding that the county spend $1 million, delay the time and the results, doing a hand count. If you had went to this thing in the morning and then in the afternoon, the state was there. What was interesting is the state elections director is a Republican. Now, she works for the Secretary of State Fontes, but she's a Republican. She's a registered Republican. And all the conspiracy theories, these are all Democratic nonsense. She's a Republican, but I watched that stuff that they did and ran through those ballots. And I'll tell you what, if you went and watched this and really note what they do and how that is done, I don't know how you can walk out of that room and say that we have a problem in Mojave County with our elections and that we need hand counting. I don't know how you can do that. We got a certificate, or Alan did anyway, from the state saying that his equipment is checked out up to snuff. And like I say, I thought it was interesting that the newspaper ran that on a front page article about this ballot counting and election integrity. You as a supervisor, and I'm sure, hopefully you've all been to it. I know I did ask if Sonny Borelli had ever gone to one of these, and he has not. And one of the other things that I asked, I said, well, why wouldn't people go to this? Why wouldn't they go to learn? And the comment was made, some people go to learn, some people just go to stir stuff up. And that seems to be the case, because the facts are there. I mean, I don't know how you refute it, but the facts are there, and the bottom line is I continue to oppose hand counting, and I will in the future continue to oppose hand counting. We don't need it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Jennifer Esposito. Then we're going to go with Martin Runge. Runge, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Thank you. Jennifer Esposito, candidate for District 4 County Supervisor. First, I'd like to just address what Mr. Martin said. For the record, neither Mr. Martin nor Elections Director Alan Tempert has watched the hand count roadshow with Mark Cook presentation on the possible vectors of attack on our election system. And as he said, some people want to learn and some people don't. And I did talk with Alan on that, and he said that he had not watched it. He was not familiar with it. He could not refute anything that was presented in that. However, he did say that when the election season was over, he promised me he would watch it, and then we could sit down and discuss it. So since Mr. Martin brought that up, I just wanted to put that on the record. Now, we have a problem. You've never seen me angry. Very few people have. Takes a lot to get me angry, but I'm starting to get angry. On June 21st, GVID well number 1 went down for about 24 hours. Apparently it was an electrical problem in the soft start system. I'm really glad they were able to get it back up in 24 hours. But the real problem that I have is that I had been watching well number 3, checking with the work crews and things, so I knew we were sitting on a perfectly good, totally completed $1 million well, paid for by ARPA money. And I couldn't understand, well, if the well's finished and has been finished for weeks, when will it be online? Much to my surprise, I found out that according to Mr. Latosky, they are procuring an engineer to design the Phase 2 well equipping and well house construction. We aim to have a design completed by October and go out for a bid in the fall, bringing us to an early 2025 completion. Now, in the real world, if you designed a well, you would be expected to design the well house and pump equipment at the same time. I only say this because I was the vice president of an oil and gas development company. And given that well number 1 is a replacement for the KP Ventures well that failed, the equipment and all of that should have been designed years ago when that project was put forward and you approved the funding on that. And so the fact that staff has not even gone out for a bid to engineer this thing. Mojave County is sitting with multiple engineers who could probably do this thing in-house, although I would not recommend Mr. Elters because he's the engineer that designed that debacle of a median down Highway 68 in Golden Valley, and I don't think he should ever engineer anything again. But you guys should not have staff where, like, we're sitting with $1 million well. Nobody's going to put it online till fall of 2025. You've got to be kidding me. I am starting to get angry. The other thing I want to say very quickly is I attended the general plan meeting in Golden Valley. Much to my surprise, without your authority and without the statutory authority to do so, apparently staff has created an advisory committee, and Supervisor Bishop's appointee to the Planning and Zoning Board is our representative, and he's the one that promoted the Angle Homes and voted for it. So conflict of interest. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Runge.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. My name is Martin Runge. I live in Golden Valley. I'd like to commend the board on approving the new zoning ordinance to limit renewable energy projects and the moratorium that enabled that, along with the vote to deny the 2 requests for massive solar farms last year. While the amended zoning ordinance is a great step forward, more needs to be done. I'd like to offer 2 suggestions for consideration. First is a change in regulations is needed to limit how much land can be cleared at a time. This is to control dust and protect the environment. Clearing thousands of acres for renewable energy facilities will have a major impact on residents, the environment, and wildlife. A limit of 36 acres a year would be a good start. Secondly, current permitting processes and codes should be changed to make it easier for homeowners and businesses to have rooftop solar. Rooftop solar is a much better option compared to giant solar farms. Some of the reasons why include that rooftop solar doesn't take up any additional space. There's no need to clear thousands and thousands of acres of land. There's less impact on the environment and wildlife. There's no dust and other health issues associated with large solar farms. There's no need for new power lines as every rooftop is already tied to the grid. And being close to the point of use, there's no power losses, which improves efficiency, which means you need fewer solar panels. In addition to that, there's financial benefits and advantages to rooftop solar over giant solar farms, and that is it increases property value instead of decreasing it. It also saves money for homeowners and businesses, and it can also make money selling excess power back to the power company. It also creates new local businesses for solar rooftop installations and maintenance, and that results in new permanent jobs, not just temporary construction jobs that large solar projects use. Rooftop solar money stays local, not in the pockets of out-of-state solar operators. More local income means more spending and more tax revenue, and it provides energy independence. I hope you will take these suggestions under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Mr. Josh Chavez, we spoke before the meeting, and you wanted to give your time over to Carolyn Strecker. That's it? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Good morning. Caroline Strecker, Fort Mojave, Arizona. I'm going to go relatively quickly because these minutes tend to go fast. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you to voice my opposition and express concerns about the proposal to building any kind of power plant in any neighborhood. This is for the Mojave Valley Power Plant. I repeat, I do support building this project, just not in any neighborhood. Not Fort Mojave, not Mojave Valley, not Bullhead City. Firstly, as a current healthcare provider and local nurse practitioner, I'm obligated to consider the health implications. Gas power plants do emit pollutants such as nitrogen oxides and particulate matter, ambient particulate sulfate concentration, wet sulfate deposition, which can have detrimental effects on the integumentary, which is the skin, and respiratory health, particularly for children and the elderly. Studies have shown that communities living, including a 3-mile radius, such these plants experience higher rates of aggravated asthma, decreased lung function. Mojave Valley already has a known high prevalence of coccidiomycosis, which is a pulmonary fungal infection, also known as valley fever, which responds to dust and water or steam conditions. I have personally treated these conditions, including one gentleman who had 9 centimeters of his left lower lung removed. Please enlighten me on how you will advocate and protect the multiple schools within the 3-mile radius, including River Valley High School and Mojave Valley Middle School, with children who have these conditions for the sake of energy. Please feel free to talk to me or contact me for any references that were utilized. Most of my references were brought to the last planning and zoning meeting, which included the American Society of Agronomy, which is the study of soil, and the American Lung Association, along with others. I inquired and understand where majority of the support of this project is coming from. It's coming from out-of-county residents, employees of MEC, residents of Bullhead City, all of which who have no skin in the game. No children at risk, no property at value, no environmental or health risk. It's really easy to sacrifice someone else's home and well-being when you have nothing to lose. MEC had sent their representative and made a wonderful attempt to convince us that there will be a benefit to us. Their justification for using our water table with no tangible accountability to the outsourcing of this energy. The usage formulary in layman's terms is a lot of water for little electricity. The project website, it shows how the power will be distributed to other major metropolitan areas and the peakers will be turned on a per diem status. No plan or discussion about auditing the authenticity of their performance or future power disbursement. Also, no decommissioning plan offered should there be violations of these contingencies. MEC's failure to purchase enough energy blocks does not justify a plant in an agricultural or residential area. Additionally, the long-term implications for our property values and quality of life, the presence of any power plant will deter potential home buyers and businesses. This is a less vibrant community. The noise, traffic, and visual pollution and industrial nature of such a facility would disrupt the peace and tranquility that we cherish in our neighborhood. MEC clearly doesn't invest in their own infrastructure. Remember how one windstorm knocked out power for all of Bullhead City. These have failed on us. And as far as patronage capital, which was shown to us, and as an MEC member, in 7 years, I received reimbursement of a total of $11. As an academic, a mother, a teacher, a healthcare provider, and a citizen, I strongly urge you to protect the residents and advise MEC to build this power plant in an approved industrial or manufacturing district. Keep this away from our residents and families.
Thank you very much. Okay, Chris Morgan. Is Chris here? After Chris Morgan, we have Chris Shoppers or Shopers, I'm sorry. Shoppers.
Like school.
Oh, Scoppers, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Good morning, Board. Chris Morgan. Allegedly, I'm the front runner to unseat Ron Gould for his seat. Hope that goes through. But that's not why I'm here today. I want to talk about traffic and congestion in Mojave Valley. We have 1.2 miles from the corner of Courtright all the way down to the bridge, 2 lanes. You know, I definitely support the peaker plants. They will be going in somewhere. That has to be done. But what I'm learning the further I get into this is everybody's got their hand out and wants something from MEC. Don't know what it is personally, but it's happening. So here's the road from Courtright down to the bridge. 2 lanes. That is 5 miles from the peaker plant. Here's the proposed truck stop, fuel pumps, on the corner of 95 and Courtright. We're going to have more vehicles coming over, and on the back side of this, there's going to be a casino. None of you have any say-so over what goes on there. The traffic flow, what are we going to do? We can't build another bridge. We can't ride in the road. This is going to be a problem in the future. So I want to know how that's going to be addressed. So getting back to the peaker plant, again, everybody's got their hand out. Everybody wants something from MEC. Don't know what it is, but I guarantee it'll come out in public soon. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Okay, Mr. Scoppers. Oh, Miss. Oh, okay, but there are 2 of you. Oh, you're James. That's Chris. Okay, got it.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Chris Scoppers, live in Mojave Valley, concerned citizen and strongly opposed to the location of the proposed Mojave Valley Energy Park or Mojave Energy Park in Mojave Valley. Again, do not feel that it's an appropriate location for it to be within 3 miles of schools that house all of the children from Fort Mojave and Mojave Valley. All of the junior high, we have 1. Both of these schools are within the 3-mile threshold, and it's a problem. I have delivered to you a packet you should each have of 1,506 petition signatures to date, and that reflects all the other people that also are concerned about this location and do not believe it's an appropriate location for this gas peaker power plant. During the Board of Supervisors Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we ended in a tie vote, and I want to add a little bit more information to that. So I hope you by now have received an email from Commissioner Luana. She was also against the proposal. So if she had been able to vote, she had to leave before the vote was called, it would not have been a tie vote. It would have ended with them not in favor of moving forward. So I hope that you will read those minutes, at least skim through them and get some information. There were several points that came out, a lot of them the same that was spoken by the woman earlier, that Patrick Ledger, who's the CEO of EPCO, could not answer. One of them, which I like to show you, is about the toxins and the effect. It's not coming up. Oops. So this was of concern to some of the planning and zoning commissioners. They wanted to know what were the pollutants that would be coming from this plant and in what quantities. he was not able, he being Patrick Ledger, was not able to answer that question at the meeting. I did include in the packet that I gave you a report from the Government Accountability Office. It's a recent report. It was just released May 21st of 2024. The U.S. government, who has no buy-in to this, right? So it's not going to help them one way or the other whether this plant goes through for MEC. But what they did find is that there's a loophole right now that many of these utility companies across the country are taking advantage of, and that is being just under that 100 kilowatts.
Can I give her my time?
I'll give you another 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Just under that 100 kilowatts. And therefore, the U.S. government's decided that they needed to step in and do their own study. And what they found is that actually, in fact, these gas peaker plants emit more pollutants than a regular natural gas power plant. Why? Because of the amount of energy for them to have that quick start. So this graph that I have also included in your packets shows what they found to be the short-term effects. And the short-term meaning from hours to less than a month of what this impact is on human beings. And as you look at that, one of the hottest topics that comes up is respiratory issues. When are these peaker plants going to be running? They're going to be running during the hottest part of the day, in the afternoons, right? That's when the kids are in school. So they're going to be located nearby after school. They're going to be out at their after school sports like we want them to be, out getting some exercise, being productive, and doing a lot of heavy breathing because of the exercise and intaking more of these pollutants into their system. I understand that MEC and EPCO's concern about putting it out by the landfill is it might be more costly. But at what cost do we put on the lives of our children? If we aren't watching out for the children in our community, who will be? And we're reliant upon you guys to help and make sure that our children are healthy and safe in as best way that you can. And so what I ask of you is to please take the time and read through that Government Accountability Office report. Educate yourselves on this so that you have the information that you need to tell MEC, sorry, this is not an appropriate location. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beatrice Jacobo?
Morning. Good morning. My name is Beatrice Jacobo. I'm 1825 East Hewlett. I live on the Fort Mojave Indian Reservation, and I have to clear something up real quick. What's his name? Chris. When he came up with that paper, that is a document that belongs to the Fort Mojave Indian tribe, regardless whether it is or isn't, which it was proposed, but hasn't gone through yet. How he got that document, I have no idea. So don't vote for him for supervisor. But anyhow, I am against the peaker plant. I was going home on the 40, and you can see all the plants that are over there, and it's getting bigger or whatever. But if a lot of MEC is like the guy said before, that they're here in Kingman, Mojave Valley, but they're not really down in Mojave Valley. So if they're up this way, they just need to put it somewhere else. And that's the only thing that we're concerned about is it just doesn't, we just don't need to rezone right there. If we rezone, then you're going to bring everybody else in. And we're such a small valley. I mean, the dust blows, we all can feel it for days until the wind comes through. It is a small valley that we don't need something that size to be there, and we don't need something that's going to be zoning there and everything else gets there. So that's the only thing that we're all concerned about. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. McClure, you're up.
Laura, I've never been introduced to you before, so it's Scotty from Bullhead. Here's another swamp photo. This is down at Governor Hobnobbin at the, you got John Gillette, he belongs there, but you got Jeannie Kinch, Grace Hecht, what the hell is she doing there? And Hildy Angus at Hobnoblin thing there. Yeah, you got to quit posting these things. Otherwise they end up right there, right along next to this sign. Let's go to Ryan Espelin real quick. Ryan, 4 meetings ago, I put in an open records request, and you did respond through the third one that I've gotten here. I'm not asking for her tax records. I don't need to care. I don't care whether she paid her taxes or not. I originally asked, how in the hell did it get redacted in the first place? Who unredacted this, and who gave her permission? And then Miss Mello read this. Somebody gave this to her, and she presses a button and unredacts it. It takes a superior court judge. Who in the hell gives these elected officials permission? I don't care who in the heck they are. Who gave them permission to unredact it? Who gave them permission to redact it? So, Ryan, I'm asking you to go to the original open records request. And I'll expect an answer, because I'm about ready to go to the Attorney General on this crime. Oh, Hildy, let's make your day. I put in a thing called a Mojave County claim form for $50,000, and your resignation from this board, and your resignation from the Arizona State Senate race. $50,000, another one. Now I suppose I'm your enemy. Whatever. I want to introduce Carolyn, which was just up here a few things ago. And Josh, that's sitting, I guess they're still here. Yeah, there they are. They're up and coming. They're in the Young Republicans Club in Bullhead, run by Ashley Garrick, who's running against Hildy. These kids are 20 years old in that generation, and they are helping me run my campaign. I want to know what the 20-year-olds say and have on their minds. So they are helping me. And I think these two are going to go someplace big time in the Republican Party here. Carolyn and Josh, watch for them. They got me on Instagram. It'll probably blow up, I guess, now.
Okay, thank you very much. Any response? I wanted to... Okay, I'm going to be... Do I have to say something before I end the call of public or after?
I got a comment.
Is that before? That's what I'm asking.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Should I close the call to public before we answer, or should we answer before I...
Just close the call to public.
Okay, I'm going to close the call to public. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A little talk about state certification of electronic voting machines. In 2004, the Republican primary in Tempe, it was a House race in the Republican primary. There was 3 candidates. The top vote getter got a seat. There was a recount for second and third. During that recount, it flipped the vote 250 votes. They took it from one candidate and gave it to the other candidate. And we thought that was strange. The election was canvassed. That person won. We looked at it later after we convinced Senate leadership to give us the money to hire a election machine expert from the University of Iowa. He came in and he ran a series of scientific tests. He marked ballots, different marks, different pens. At the time, they were blaming it on glitter pens. So he runs this test and finds that one of the voting machines that the Secretary of State's office had certified was 18% out of calibration and should have never been used. It also found out that the ballot instructions were to make a single line between the 2 arrows with a big blue round stick pen. If you did that, it didn't count your ballot. But if you touched it with a lead pencil, say you were somebody that said Jones or Smith, I'm going with Smith, and you touched Jones, it kicked your ballot out as an overcount. So much for the Secretary of State's certification of voting machines. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. I want to address Mr. Stang. Is he still here? Okay. I was concerned about what you said about the new bridge. I'll talk to Bullhead City about that and get back next meeting. And the picture that Mr. McClure was holding up, it was opening day at the legislature where I had the privilege of being invited by the House Majority Leader to sit while they were sworn in and listen to the governor. Doesn't matter the party of the governor they get to make the speech. There's nothing wrong about that at all. I don't understand it. I was very proud of that picture. That's all I want to say. And with that, we'll move on to the presentation.
May I make a comment
I'm
as well?
so sorry.
And me too.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to just address something that I heard Mr. Beffert say, and I want to say thank you for your comments today. The only thing I want to make clear is, if you look at the record, I've been absolutely 100% unwavering and consistent on anti-mask mandates, anti-small business closures, anti-mandated vaccinations. I believe very strongly, and I always will, in individual freedom of healthcare choice. Thank you.
Supervisor Bishop, I apologize.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to address the comments made by Jennifer Jones Esposito about the general plan process. The subcommittee meetings are not required for the general plan process, but this board, along with staff, thought it would be a good idea and transparent in the decision-making process to create a subcommittee to help process the various comments from the communities and facilitate the changes in the general plan. And ultimately, these changes will come before this board and will be voted on. So I just wanted to put that out there for some clarity. I think the best way, and this board agreed and staff agreed, was to have a subcommittee. And we voted on March the 18th to have one member of the Planning and Zoning Commission from each 5 districts appointed to that subcommittee. So currently, my members of the Planning and Zoning Commission are both from Kingman. I had no involvement in which one of those were appointed. That was decided at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's on video. And I just wanted to clear the air and share with everybody how that came to be the members of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Supervisor Johnson, anything? Is he still on?
Madam Chair.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. We have a presentation this morning on the Wheel Fund Program, a nonprofit organization for youth.
Madam Chair, if I may introduce this.
Absolutely.
I was the one that placed this. I appreciate all of my fellow board members entertaining this brief presentation this morning. One of the things that a county supervisor does sometimes is connect the dots between organizations with an outcome of something that's going to be good for their district and the county. So with that, I'd like to invite Kevin Adam and his folks from Wheel Fund. Also, Natalie Hammond, who made the drive down she's the principal of Cottonwood Elementary in Colorado City. We've started this program in District 1, and they'd like to expand into other areas of Mojave County. So I just wanted to give a brief overview, allow them to give a brief overview, and then if any of the other supervisors wanted to connect the dots in their own district, they could do that. Mr. Adams? Mr. Gawinski.
Thank you, Board, for allowing us to give our little presentation today. My name is Marty Galinsky. I'm one of the board members. Also joining me today are 2 other board members, Kevin Adams, right there he is, and Brad Vierick. We also have our executive director, who is actually starting officially today, Evan Puglia. And as Travis said, we also have Natalie Hammond, who is the principal at Cottonwood Elementary School in Colorado City. We're here today to to give you a background of who we are, what we are, and I'm going to call Evan up to continue the program.
Good morning, Board. As Marty said, I am today is my first day as the executive director, so thank you for having me. But truth be told, I've been a volunteer coach for the Wheel Fund organization for over 5 years. So I think we are all here today to let you know how much we love this program and what benefits it has to not only your students, but also your local community. So we have prepared a video for you so that you can visually see somewhat of what we do. So I'll start that now.
Welcome to Wheel Fund, a non-profit organization based in Verde Valley.
Whoa. Just kidding. Hold on.
Welcome to Wheel Fund, a non-profit organization based in Verde Valley, Arizona.
All right, that's all right.
Our mission is to get young people off of their electronic devices and onto Welcome provide free programs and mountain bikes to youths from all socioeconomic backgrounds, races, and identities, ensuring everyone has a chance to ride. Through partnerships with local public schools, Wheel Fund creates turnkey opportunities for students to build confidence and achieve tangible successes through supervised mountain bike experiences. Our comprehensive initiative includes donated bikes and equipment, guides for after-school clubs, coach development, and camps. Wheel Fund's efforts have constructed 3 bike skills parks on school campuses, with a 4th in the pre-planning phase, and we offer the Logan's Hero Dirt College Scholarship. Our efforts to benefit kids, schools, and parents alike, fostering a healthier and more active community. Wheel Fund's ultimate goal? To have an after-school bike program in all 15 counties in Arizona. Together, we can make this dream a reality.
What do you like about bike club?
Jumping and going over rock gardens.
How come you like mountain biking?
I like mountain biking because it just gives kids a way to get outside.
Do you like mountain biking?
Yeah,
Why?
the jumps.
Okay, Fastlane.
Yes.
How come you're in bike club?
Because I am in bike club, so I can bike.
Okay, great. So now that you've seen a little bit about what we do, I wanted to let you know that we have 2 new bike clubs coming to the Kingman Unified School District. So the first will be this fall at Desert Willow, and then the second will be at Surbat Elementary School. This will add to 2 other schools that we have in Mojave County that are located in Colorado City. We have a bike club at Cottonwood Elementary School, and then also El Capitan Junior High. So what do we provide as a organization? Well, we have a no-charge turnkey bike club for rural public schools in Arizona. This will include all of the bikes, the helmets, water bottles, pumps, the gear that you need, and then also a curriculum for the coaches to follow. We also will provide support in the form of a budget for continual bike maintenance so that we can help you out through this process. So what do we ask for from the schools? Well, it's pretty simple. We need a place to store the bikes, right? Somewhere on campus where the bikes will live. And then we also need help from the schools to recruit coaches and students. So how is this possible? Well, we do have an incredible fundraising team where we access grants, individual donors, and business sponsors. The true heroes of this program, though, I do have to recognize, it's our volunteer base. We have a ton of volunteers throughout the whole organization, from coaches to people who just help out with administration. So they're truly the backbone of our organization. But you don't have to take it from us. I'm going to introduce Principal Hammond from Colorado City, and she'll give a testimonial to her personal experience with Wheel Fund.
Thank you. My name is Natalie Hammond, and I'm an elementary principal at Cottonwood Elementary in the beautiful Colorado City, Arizona, North Canyon. As an educator and advocate for our youth and community, my focus is progression. How can we meet our needs, and how can I contribute as a whole for good? Will Fund has become something I have become very passionate about in the last 9 months. Will Fund showed up in the fall to pitch their nonprofit. It felt too good to be true. Little paperwork, we know how grants are, free bikes, safety equipment, all maintenance and repairs. Will Fund has a motto, providing kids of all background and races and identities the opportunity to get off devices and get to the outdoors. Our district was allotted 20 bikes. In our 3rd through 5th grade of approximately 150 students, 60 kids showed up for our after-school program, just in the elementary. Biking became such a hit, we had to separate them into groups to make sure that all students with all abilities had an opportunity to participate. Will Fund provides a quick curriculum with this program that teaches students safety and basic skills and tricks for riding. Students have not only had an after-school program, we have incorporated a biking class for our students within the school day and match it with our social-emotional program. Educators across the country are seeing a decline in executive functioning. The fundamental skills related to executive functioning include proficiency in adaptive thinking, planning, self-monitoring, self-control, working memory, time management, and organization. We have given students tools, whether it's for behavior and anger management, attention deficit disorder, or just simply students that get bored with school through biking. This biking club has had an impact in our community. We have allowed open garage this summer for any student that would like to check out a bike and explore the outdoors this summer. We have designed our summer school around mental health, hiking, and biking, and all around the wellness of our youth minds. So in closing, I would like to encourage approval, networking, and introductions between Will Fund and the schools within Mojave County to support the well-being and future of our youth. Thank you.
We now have 2 requests from the board, and Brad and Kevin will explain those.
We're good at asking for help. What I would like is for each of the supervisors in their districts to help us be introduced to the school districts within your area. That's the #1 request.
And number 2, just about everybody we know in Mojave County, because we live in Yavapai County, is in this room. So while our governance requires us to have board representation from each county in which we operate, so that we're not making decisions back there in Sedona that are happening here. So if you know anybody that has interest in joining our board, we'd be love to talk to them. We look for these board members to help us just make informed decisions, and as we asked you, open doors to help us get into more kids on bikes.
Lastly, a big thank you for allowing us to come and present this morning. We'd welcome any questions, comments you may have.
Supervisor Leinfelter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to all of you for making the trip from your homes, Colorado City and Yavapai County, for coming here. The reason I put this on the agenda, it's a little out of the purview of what the county board does, but I'm a very strong advocate of healthy kids, strong kids, physical fitness. We used to have it. We're losing it in this country. And so, you know, I really appreciate our partnership and being able to connect the dots. I mean, as a county supervisor, what we did in Kingman, for instance, is I invited the school district and CRADA, which is Trails Alliance Club here, and then you guys, we got everybody together, and really it was just to connect the dots. And so pleased that we have them operating in also Colorado City, but then Kingman as well. And they'd love to expand into other areas of Mojave County. As they said, they provide brand new Trek bikes, all of the equipment, all the watering packs. I think they give a stipend to the coaches. That may be true. They cover, importantly, the liability. All they ask for is the schools that are participating to store the bikes and help them with recruitment. But it's a great opportunity for others to connect the dots, and that's why I put them on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I want to thank you too. My district is Bullhead City, and I will get that word out and get back to you. And I want to thank Natalie for coming down, making this trip, and for all the great work you do up there in Colorado City. I can't think of a better program than to get the kids out on bicycles in probably one of the most beautiful areas in the whole state of Arizona. So thank you again. Okay. Off to the consent agenda, items 5 through 36. The following items listed under consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Supervisor Bishop.
I have nothing.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Nothing this morning, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Number 11 and number 16.
Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
And I have nothing, so I'll need a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 36 minus 11 and 16.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm curious what we're doing here. If somebody from Development Services could explain it, I would appreciate it.
Okay, who's up?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
this is Scott Holtree. This is a zoning map correction. Give me 1 second. Let me turn down my volume. This is a zoning map correction. We noticed that a block within the Golden Shores area was incorrectly zoned. Essentially, back in, I believe, the 90s, a mistake was made on our maps, our paper maps that we show which zoning the parcels have, and it carried over to the GIS maps as well. When we discovered this, we looked at all the parcels. Each of the parcels that had uses on them were still in compliance with the correct zoning, which is our C2 zoning. We sent notification letters to each of the property owners, and they are all in agreement that it should be the C2 zone, and we didn't have any objections from them or the commission. And so this would just be correcting that C2 or the block of properties from that C2H zone back to that C2 zone.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Once again, I'm wondering what are we doing here? If somebody from the Health Department can explain it, I would appreciate it.
Good morning, Chairman Angus, Supervisor Gould. For this particular item, we are allowing the WIC program, which is currently overseen by Coconino County, to operate within the Public Health Office in Colorado City until we can get the services transferred under Mojave County. So in fiscal year 26, the contract will be fully under Mojave County. In the meantime, this is the best way to serve the community as the contract stands currently.
So how did Coconino County end up serving our WIC clients?
To be honest, I do not know the history of that. It's been that way for over 25 years.
Interesting. So, but we're moving to take care of our own folks?
Correct.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I could just respond to that. I think one of the reasons why is because Coconino County borders right there with Mojave County, and it serves Fredonia. And so because they're serving Fredonia, they do services over there in Colorado City. There was another similar provision where Coconino County worked with us to serve the Colorado City residents, and the reason is because they're already there with Fredonia. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to public hearings. I'm opening up the public hearings for number 37, discussion and possible action to deny the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2024-143, which is an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan. I do have somebody signed up. Ricardo Gandara. That's you? Do you want to come on down? State your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Ricardo Gandara. Address is 2755 Country Club Drive, Bullhead City, Arizona. I'm here to represent the owner of the property, which is the amendment to the Mojave County General Plan. And I would like to address some of the local concerns about the plant's operation of the potential problems that might arise. The plant's equipment will be limited to 2 trucks, 1 skid, and 1 portable silo. The 2 trucks will not be on the property at all times. They will rotate from Arizona to Nevada as needed, and will initially operate an average of 3 days per week just to establish presence in this area. If the demand for their services grows, they will consider finding a different property to meet their needs. And the owner of the plant came out with some strategies to give solution to the problems about the heavy traffic, dust, and noise attenuation. The first strategy is paving the existing street, dirt road, South Calle Vista, from the which is about 650 linear feet by 22 feet wide in extension, approximately, and that's from the property itself all the way to Joy Lane. And the second strategy is while operating in a plant, the material, store material, while they're working, they're going to be irrigating, so there's no pollution on that area, and the surroundings as well. And then the third strategy is minimizing the trips during the day to 4 trips a day, 3 days a week. And that's all I need to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to item 37? Seeing none, I will close the call to public. I should have said when I read this that the commission recommended denial by unanimous vote. Anyone want any questions? Any comments?
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Motion to approve the denial.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the denial of the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 38 was pulled. 39, discussion possible action to approve the adoption. I'm going to open the public hearing. Discussion possible action to approve the adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2024-145 was to rescind Board of Supervisor Resolution 91-011. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. Would anyone like to speak on item 39? 39. I'm going to close the public hearing. Board? Is anyone going to make a motion?
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure the motion here. I move that the board approve item 39.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 40, I'm opening up the public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2024-146, another amendment to the Mojave County General Plan, and the Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up. Anyone wish to speak? Item 40? 40. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 41, I'm opening the public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2024-147, which is an extension of time for a rezone. The commission recommended approval by 5-2, with Commissioners Hubbard and Gillette voting against. We do have some people signed up for 41. Martin Runge. I'll get you that.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board. My name is Martin Runge. I live on Ramon Drive in Golden Valley, about a quarter mile north of the proposed solar site. You've heard all the valid concerns raised last year regarding the large solar project requested by Re-Energy, which you denied. Those concerns also apply to this request. However, there are some new ones to consider for this request. One is, in its entirety, this solar farm will be the largest land clearing in Mojave County, somewhere close to 2,000 acres. The effects of the construction dust and traffic will be devastating to residents. Dust is already a huge problem in Golden Valley, and if anybody's been out there recently to see the problems caused by the gravel pit that's probably 100 times smaller than what the land clearing for the solar farm would be. There's a lot of dust and people are complaining. Also, the property is surrounded on all four sides by roughly 2-acre residential lots, about 100 or a mile deep in each direction, so there's about 1,000 on all four sides. So that's no place for a solar farm or energy facility. Also, the developers say they will use a new biopolymer crust to manage dust during solar farm operation. However, there are no long-term environmental impact tests or studies on this. No one knows what effect the polymers will have on the environment over a 35-year lifespan. I have some slides I'll show later because they mentioned it was developed at Arizona State University, and I looked up information on it. Also, desert tortoises have been documented living on and around the subject property, and they are a protected species under Arizona law. Additionally, the parcel is not zoned as commercial or industrial, and according to the amended zoning ordinance, it is not eligible for a renewable energy facility. This extension request is not from the original developer either. The new developers should be required to submit a new request rather than a time extension. In conclusion, on behalf of the residents in the area that couldn't make the meeting, I ask that you vote against this rezone time extension request. And if I have time, I'd like to show those slides from the what they call geotechnical dust control. If you notice the
Can you turn?
disadvantages that they list, the environmental impact, and the fact that they don't know what the side effects are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, we do have the applicant here, Andrew Yancey. Please come on down.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Yancey. I'm an attorney with Bergen, Frank, Smalley, and Oberholzer. For your records, we're at 4343 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. Pleased to be before you again representing Long Road Development. They're a national solar energy developer who's got a lot of experience and investment here in Arizona. This is a 640-acre property that we're looking at here. There was an energy overlay approved for it in 2022 by this board. So what we're here for today is respectfully requesting approval of a time extension. Now, the reason for that is these types of projects require interconnection studies with the utility. My client came on board shortly after the property was approved for this use back in 2022. They started working with Unisource on the interconnection studies. These types of studies they take a couple years, and that's not unique to Unisource. What happens is your study request, it goes in a queue, and you just have to wait for your turn in the queue. Fortunately, just last month, we did receive our preliminary study results from Unisource, so that means the process is moving. We're now in direct communications. We're looking at a late 2025 construction date, and we think we're tracking for that based on this progress. So that's why we're asking for the extension to be able to continue pursuing that. This entire site is private property. It is just adjacent to the Griffith Industrial Corridor. The property itself is about 3 miles to the west of I-40, so not prime industrial or commercial land. Also, there's no water, wastewater services right now, so it's not really prime residential development either. So we're looking at a private property owner who's looking to make a beneficial use of their land, and this is what they're going with. There's also some floodplain constraints, and there's a gas pipeline that cuts across part of this property. Although the site isn't great for more traditional development, it's close to some of that utility infrastructure that's near the existing utility uses there. So that's beneficial to this type of use. Just very briefly, as to Mr. Runge's point, we did get to speak with him for a while after the Planning and Zoning Commission. He came out to that. I do understand that one of his concerns is the construction process and the dust that occurs during that. But of course, any type of development is going to have a construction process. There are standards. You got to post a sign with a number, somebody to call if you're having a problem. We've also provided him contact information for myself and for some of the senior project management in the company to make sure he can get a hold of us if he has any type of issue. The polybiomer, and I'm not even going to get the scientific term for it, right? Crust he was talking about. That is not something that we are definitively proposing for this site. We're going to go through the construction process and get all the... Madam Chair, may I continue as the applicant?
Well, this is the public hearing, so we get 3 minutes, but we'll call you back after when we are able to discuss things.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. John Alexander.
Thank you, board members. My name is John Alexander. I live at 4820 South Sacramento Road, Golden Valley. I'm guessing I'm about half mile maybe from this proposed project. I was 100 feet from the solar project that was wanting to go in last year, and my friend Marty introduced me to the whole scenario with the board and how things operate here. Kind of piqued my interest, and thanks to him, I've been attending a few meetings now. I, as well as Marty, have concerns about the environment and whatever, but I think a more appropriate place would obviously be more in line with the power plant, and over by where the defunct solar farm was going in a few years ago, the Hive plant, I guess it was. I'm not sure. I thought I heard that somebody else was going in to take that over. So, but anyway, I think that area probably is a little more appropriate than where we've picked now. Also, there are no power lines that I know of there, so that's one more added thing that'll probably have to take place in order for the project to finish. So, and my last thing was, so in other words, I'm against it. I hope you vote against it as well. My other concern was I sent a letter of opposition, I think it was last month, and that was about 10:30 in the morning on the day of the deadline for letters. By 6:30 the following morning, I got an email from I guess it's Long Road. Anyway, they wanted to know if I had any questions, and they were reaching out to me. And I was thinking that my letter was anonymous. And I don't know what the process is, but I think there ought to be a process, and maybe you can explain it. I heard the term redaction earlier, so if that's a way I can send a letter to the board and not have my name and email address published, I would like to do that at this point, because I assumed the letter was anonymous, and I see no reason for my name and email address to go out to anybody and everybody that has concerns. I guess that was released by the planning or whoever, somebody. So anyway, I just want to make you aware of that as well. So if there's a process for eliminating my name and email address, I'd appreciate to hear how that works. And I guess Laura probably was the one that I would talk to. But anyway, that's my comment. So
Thank you very much.
deny. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer Esposito.
Jennifer Esposito, back again. I just want to say I oppose this for the reasons that the first gentleman stated, but also, recently we removed the solar overlay, and no one really has a right to a rezone. As he said, this is not the original applicant, but I really have an issue with so much of Golden Valley and District 4 and Mojave County in general basically being scraped clean for these projects that people think are green but aren't really green, because solar isn't renewable and it's not green. It's actually not even efficient. There's still a lot of problems with battery storage, and I say that as somebody who used to write an off-the-grid column for my newspaper, who actually uses solar on my other property in Golden Valley. And so I am well familiar with all the problems and drawbacks of using solar, even on a small scale type of thing. But on commercial scale stuff, it's really not the best use of the land. And it's really not the best fit, I don't think, for Golden Valley, especially, if there are tortoises. One of the things that I've been saying is that if we're going to do commercial scale, so-called green energy or renewable energy, and we're going to basically take large swaths of land and just scrape them clean, that we really should set up a policy to require the applicants to do an environmental impact study, not through the federal government, but through state fish and game, to make sure that we don't have Gila monsters, to make sure that we don't have burrowing owls, to make sure that we don't have desert tortoises. We have a very fragile ecosystem here. People think of the desert as just being sand, but it's not. It's a vibrant, amazing ecosystem that really should be protected. And, the long-term viability of solar panels, their efficiency, their lifetime is really kind of not great in the scheme of things. And so I just don't think that this is the right thing in the right place. And we're going to be getting all kinds of solar and green, quote-unquote, renewable energy, whether we like it or not, on federal land. BLM's made that pretty clear. So why chew up even more of Mojave County with more of these projects where the lifespan of the project is really not going to return to the community on a best use thing? That's just all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to item 41? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any questions from the board?
Do you want to bring the applicant back?
Yes, please, Mr. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Supervisor Gould, do you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I don't think he finishes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Supervisor Gould. I'll just be very brief to finish my train of thought there, but then I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions you have on your own or from what you heard from any of the other speakers. When it comes to the dust control that Mr. Runge was discussing, Long Road is in the process. They're a stakeholder with Arizona State. They're looking for some technological advances on how to do better with that. In particular, what they're looking at, which they don't know if it's going to be ready for this site or not, but again, we'll comply with all the rules. But what they're looking at is a fungus and bacteria material crust that is naturally occurring. It's not polymers. I wish Mr. Runge would have reached out to us to discuss that further instead of just showing you something that he pulled after our discussion. The other item, just briefly, there was some biological discussions. We have done what's called a critical issues analysis. It did not find any species or habitat of concern. There are more detailed pre-construction surveys that occur closer to the time of development if there are any species or habitat found. At that time, you work with state fish and game on relocations. In addition, there are some washes and some floodplain that go through this property. We're not going to be developing on those washes or floodplain. We'll develop around it. So again, any specific questions you have, I'm happy to address.
Okay, any questions? Nothing? Supervisor Johnson?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Bishop?
I have a few questions. So this has already been approved, and you're asking for an extension. So have there been any progress with the property in anticipation of the extension being approved?
Supervisor
It's just
Bishop.
still bare land.
Yes, Supervisor Bishop, thank you for the question. There has been nothing that's occurred on site at the property. The reason is on this project, we have to work with the utility to be able to connect to it before it makes sense to go forward. So we've been in that interconnection study process. Now that we're coming out of that and we do have preliminary study results, we're working directly with the utility. That's when we go out and start the plans for specifically working on the property. So one of the conditions was we keep working with the utility on the interconnection, which we have. There is one other item that we have addressed in the interim. There was a condition of the 2022 approval that said we needed to combine two of the parcels on the property that are zoned industrial. We have processed a lot combination with the county. They've approved it, but they're still, I think, in the process of issuing the APN. But that was what we're able to do without actually expending the resources to go grade or address things on the property while we're waiting on those interconnection study results.
Okay, so far everything has been administratively nothing physically on the property. So you mentioned that you've been working with Unisource. Can you expand on that a little bit? Is this energy a Unisource project? Will you be putting in power lines to be able to transfer that energy to Unisource? Can you go into that a little bit, please?
Yes, Supervisor Bishop, thank you. We have been working with Unisource. The interconnection studies, and again, this is sort of the driver of the development process. It looks at what are the improvements that we need to make and what are the improvements that Unisource would need to make for us to be able to connect. We are looking at connecting this project to the grid. It is not for consumption on site or by any specific use. Unisource actually has what they call an integrated resource plan, and they just published it last year. So even after our approval in 2022, they're looking specifically for 350 megawatts of renewable energy within the next 15 years. That comes from Unisource. This site would be 75 megawatts is the maximum we think we can build there, so it would help fill part of that portfolio. It is, I think, a little increase in what Unisource has asked for before. They're looking at the potential for some industrial development and increased power needs. I think we're seeing all around the state right now, some of the industrial and especially some of the high-tech manufacturing that comes in, they have very high power needs. So we got to be able to supply that power to get those job producers in here. There would need to be a transmission line to interconnect. That would go through the Arizona Corporation Commission's line siting approval process, so that's how that would occur. It looks like we're 2 to 3 miles from the Griffith Generating Facility. It's over there next to I-40 right now. That looks like the point of interconnection, so that process would be worked out through the ACC.
Okay, does that then connect with the new 230 kV transmission lines that Unisource is currently putting in?
Supervisor Bishop, that's a great point, and I don't want to get above my head and act like an electrical engineer. I don't know exactly what line ties into what line, but yes, that amount of utility infrastructure coming through the area will all function together as part of Unisource's grid.
Okay, so I do have some concerns because there's some scattered housing in the area. What is the current buffer that was approved originally back in May?
Supervisor Bishop, there was not a specific buffer as part of the initial approval. What we're proposing and we have conveyed to staff is the new solar amendment has a 100-foot buffer to residential. We're willing to do a 100-foot buffer around the entire property, but we also have floodplain that crosses some of the corners of our property and is going to naturally increase that buffer to 500, 700 feet at specific places where that floodplain, that wash comes in, because we're not going to develop it. So there's going to be an increased buffer even over and above what we're voluntarily going to because of the natural landforms there.
Okay, I think you would have better success with this board if you increase that 100-foot buffer, at least where there are existing residential homes, to something a little more attractive to people that may have to live close to this, like maybe 500-600 foot where there's an existing residence. As the applicant, would you be willing to consider that as part of a motion to approve the extension?
So, Supervisor Bishop, after the zoning is in place and extended, we do go through a site plan approval process with staff, and I appreciate your suggestion here, and that we look at specifically where existing residences are, because there are a few scattered residences generally around the property. I don't think there are any right up next to it, but if there are existing residences and we need to provide something additional for them, we are happy to work with staff to identify where those places are and do that through the site plan approval process, if that would be amenable.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, thank you for your testimony this morning. I appreciate it. I just have two questions for you, really. I've heard some of the speakers talk about a project ownership change. So my first question to you is, was there a project ownership change? When did that occur, and how long did that acquisition process take?
Thank you, Supervisor Lingenfelter. I'll do my best to address that again. And I'm a land use attorney. I don't do the transactions, so we look at the entitlements on the land. But the owner of the property has remained the same. So what my client Long Road, they are in various stages of escrow and options to purchase the property. That's a typical model with these types of projects, and I understand that's what the previous developer was too. So at some point in the months after the May 2022 approval of this zoning, I believe sometime in the summer of 2022, my client came in and became the solar developer that was working with the property owner, that had contractual rights with the property owner. And it was shortly after that time that my client started working with Unisource, I believe in the fall of 2022, to push that along.
Do you know how long that acquisition process took? And I don't hold you to something that's not in your wheelhouse.
Supervisor Lingenfelter, I'm sorry, I do not know.
Okay. I'm going to ask another question. You may or may not know. But during that acquisition process, was the interconnection study or any other work on this project, as it transitioned to one solar company developer to another, was that interconnection study or any other work paused?
Supervisor Lingenfelter, to the best of my knowledge, my client made a submittal shortly after they came in. I do not know if there was additional interconnection work that had occurred before that. I believe that submittal was in September or October of 2022. So it's a situation where these studies typically take a year or two to get through, and so it's honestly kind of predictable that we would have to be back here asking for an extension with the initial 2-year approval.
May I ask a clarifying question to you? So what I heard you just say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the original solar developer wasn't the one that initiated the interconnection study and all the other things. It was after the acquisition process and the project changed hands, understanding that the property owner remains consistent, that the second solar developer was the one that actually initiated those interconnection studies. Is that correct?
Supervisor Lincoln-Felder, I'm sorry, I do not know what the previous solar developer may or may not have done in terms of interconnection studies. I just
It looks like one of your counterparts is coming down, so maybe she...
Certainly.
Hi, Madam Chair, Supervisors. I'm Alyssa Menzel with Long Road Energy, the project developer for this project. So I could speak just to the acquisition a little bit to add some detail there. The previous solar developer was not involved at all in the interconnection study process with Unisource. So like Andrew mentioned, we acquired the project in the summer of 2022, and that fall we started the interconnection process with Unisource, entered into their queue, and since then have had several discussions with them while we awaited our first study results, which we just received last month.
Thank you for that. May I ask you a follow-up question to that?
Sure.
So was it the original solar developer that you acquired this project from? Were they the ones that originally came to the county and started that 2-year clock?
Yes, the previous developer is the one who came to the county first to get the initial approval back in May of 2022, and at that time, Long Road Energy was not involved with the project.
I appreciate that. And I'll tell you the reason I'm asking is it's just all these clarifying questions. Mojave County has since revamped. We did an 8-month moratorium. We allowed staff to come back and really I don't know, I guess you would say substantial improvements to that whole section of our rules. So it was my understanding that any of these projects that had initiated an original 2-year window for those E overlay zones were going to be grandfathered in, and those 2-year zones would be allowed to continue under the old rules. I asked the clarifying questions because in my head I'm wondering, you know, in my head it was that 2 years was for the original solar developer, and I'm not sure if it's something that I'm willing to extend. But I just appreciate your testimony this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only statement I have is that all of these questions we're asking them will be brought up if they get the extension, bring back a plan, you know, the setbacks and all that. Extension, or they're just asking for an extension, but they can get all of their go and bring them back so we can either say yes or no. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Bishop?
I'm not sure that I understood everything that Supervisor Johnson was saying. His audio was a little broken.
Do you want him to repeat it?
Unless you understand it and you can
I think he's
translate.
saying until, you know, this is just an extension, right? Supervisor Johnson, until, you know, he'll do everything, we'll get all that information. Is that what you said? Do you want to repeat that, Supervisor Johnson?
That was accurate, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the extension of time, and when this comes up for the site plan, that we consider adding a larger buffer for the residential homes that are currently there.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 42, I'm going to open the public hearing. Discussion possible action, approve the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2024-148, which is a special use permit. And this was, Commission recommended approval by 5-2. I have nobody signed up. Anybody wish to speak on item 42? Item 42. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
This is in my district, and I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Opening the public hearing for item number 43, discussion possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Mojave County Ordinance 2024-12 to amend the Mojave County zoning ordinance, Section 46, amendments to zoning districts, rezones. This was recommended approval by the commission by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up. Anyone wish to speak on 43? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the regular agenda, number 44, by Procurement, discussion possible action to receive Procurement Director's presentation of the Mojave County Public Procurement Portal and overview of the OpenGov procurement software implementation, including modification to the county's general conditions for construction.
Good morning. I had
there
to
you
double
are.
check my watch. Good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. Let me get this queued up. So I just wanted to take an opportunity today to share an update with the board about our implementation of the OpenGov procurement software and other improvements that we've done as a result of the OpenGov procurement software. I agendized this as discussion and possible action because we are making some substantial modifications to our general conditions. So if the board wanted to direct us to do anything differently, I wanted you guys to have that opportunity. I'll try to keep this brief, and I can go in a little bit more detail if you want. But essentially, in early November, the board approved the ARPA project for the procurement software, and in late November, they approved the specific purchase from OpenGov for their procurement suite. We issued a purchase order in late December, had our first kickoff meeting early January, and actually started implementation at the end of January. Our first project went live on May 1st. And I just want to say huge thank you to my staff for doing a 4-month massive implementation so that we were up and running within 4 months. That was a big deal for us. We've completed quite a few tasks. We do have a few things left to do. So of the completed tasks, a majority of our active requirements contracts, you may hear us call them term contracts, anything that's a renewable contract, have been uploaded to our contract portal website. I went too fast. I don't know how to go backwards. I don't know how to do it from the, is there an arrow? Well, I don't have my list. Is there a clicker? Let's see if this does it better. Nope. I advanced too far in my slides and now I can't go backwards. Pivot and adapt, right? There we go. Completed tasks. And I should be able to play from, nope, it's going to make me go through this. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All of our formal solicitations are currently being released in the system, so anything that we anticipate being of a value of more than $100,000. We're doing all evaluations for qualifications-based selections or for proposal-based selections electronically in the website. This is a huge deal to us. It means we're not printing out 50 copies of submittals and hand-delivering them and sitting in offices with people that are evaluating. We have templates in place for the invitation to bid, non-construction templates for requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, direct select contracts, and general project templates. I like to brag. I was working on a project for the county manager in early May, and I was able to draft a contract in 15 minutes while I was in a meeting with county manager Alters. So it's definitely doing things to make us more efficient. I did a quick screen grab of a couple of our websites just so you can see what the website actually looks like. This is our active projects page. So anytime we have a solicitation that's out to bid, it will be on projects. This is what we currently have out to bid. I pulled this last night. This is our contracts page. This is the list of all of our terms requirement contracts. It is searchable by keyword. It's searchable by department. And as we go through and clean things up, people can actually download the contract documents, the board action associated with these contracts. We do have some remaining tasks, the adoption and use of an invitation for bid construction template. That'll be the bulk of this presentation today. We have end user training scheduled for January 12th. That training will be hosted by OpenGov implementation staff. We will record it so that it's available on our intranet website for future viewing. We have additional template creation that we want to work on, primarily focused on the informal processes, so quote requests, short form agreements, and then our ongoing type of solicitations like the indigent defense services. Transparency and reporting uses. This does work with the existing transparency and reporting that we use to report out our spend, and so we need to work on how do we pull the data from OpenGov and get it over to the transparency site, as well as frequency and what data to pull from our ERP from Munis in order to get on that transparency site. So those are all things that are coming in the coming months. Now we'll get into the construction IFB template. As part of this process, we needed to go through and update all of our templates, and the construction IFB template is one of those difficult ones. We have this massive general conditions document that is part of it, and it's something that even back when I was a procurement officer, I wanted to see us update it, and we just never got around to it. So for anyone who hasn't done construction projects, general conditions are those terms and conditions that are specific to the complexities of contracting for construction. The goal of a general conditions document is to sort of be a blanket protection that clearly defines the responsibilities of the county and the contractor, that protects the county and taxpayers. It would guide project management from both a contractor's perspective and the county's perspective, and then it's really what determines what will happen when things go wrong. And so why are we looking to update these now? Essentially, the software generates a PDF and a Word document based on inputs, and we could continue to force a square peg into a round hole and just upload this as a standalone document, but it doesn't necessarily fit the formatting. When we do this, we have problems with formatting. A bulk of procurement officer time without using this software is cleaning up documents, making sure that we didn't, forget to change a project-specific item, reference a contract number incorrectly. And then it's just silly things that happen when you're working in 20-year-old Word documents where the formatting and the justification is off. The system generating this through an output does all of that for us, and so we save a ton of time in that. So for us, it was kind of like, don't waste a good opportunity for meaningful change, and we knew that the time was right to update our general conditions. I use the term current general conditions lightly. The general conditions are based off of a document that, as far back as I can find, it was created in 2006. It was something that was created because Public Works was managing all of their own procurement. In 2005, when procurement was centralized, this document was created, and it really has not been modified since then much. The last that I could find was a minor document revision in January, and then I could find one that I had actually updated it in, January of 2012. I found one where I updated it in January of 2015, primarily just to highlight areas that I knew I would need to look for and change when I was putting out construction bid contracts. So a couple of things that we knew we needed to update on the general conditions. We needed to modernize the general conditions to reflect our actual practices. I was joking in a meeting that we could withdraw bids by telegraph still, according to our general conditions. So modernizing things like electronic notification. We don't send actual physical notice to people anymore. We use email. Our current bidding projects, our practices, our current project management methods. We removed any conflict or duplication with standard terms and conditions or special terms and conditions. Again, this document's always been seen as a blanket, but you don't ever want to have conflicting terms because that gets you into trouble when you end up in a problem and you have to go before a court. It removed project-specific areas within the general conditions. So one of the areas that we would have problems is we updated things like liquidated damages, actual dollar amounts in the general conditions, construction calendar days in the general conditions. And if somebody didn't know that, you had to change it in this section, and this section, old information would remain in general conditions related to other projects. So we went through and removed anywhere that would require a project change and made it very generalized, and this document itself will have no edits in it. The same document will be in every single construction contract. That project-specific information will happen within the solicitation document. And then we decrease the overall contract document length. I will tell you, this was one of my goals, but it wasn't the primary goal, but reducing the document length. Our contracts right now, our construction solicitations, tend to be anywhere from 80 to 100 pages, and that's before technical specifications and plans. And so the likelihood that somebody's actually reading all 100 pages of that is pretty small. course, we're having them certify that they read it, so it's on them if they sign something that they're not aware of. We thought it would make sense to bring this down to something that was a little bit more digestible. Primary actual changes to the general conditions. We condensed the definitions. I think we had something like 10 pages of definitions. We just saw no need to define any of the industry standard terms. People know what a road is. They know what a sidewalk is. We reorganized it to eliminate repetitive language. So in various sections, we would talk about acceptance or modifications. We just created a section that said, when we talk about acceptance, this is what we mean. We made it applicable to all county departments. Again, back in 2006, this was primarily a public works document. In the last 20 years, we do contracting on behalf of the flood control district. We do contracting on behalf of in various improvement districts, the library. And so we wanted to make it very clear that it was all county contracts, not just the public works department. We clarified the role of county engineer, and owner. Again, these used to be things that were used interchangeably within the general conditions, but we recognize that sometimes the project owner is not the county. Sometimes the county as the project manager and the county engineer have different roles and responsibilities. The county engineer has a lot of responsibilities related to acceptance of work or modifications. We also included statutory bonding language. This was one of those weird things that the bonding language existed within our solicitation, and then in the general conditions we said, see special terms and conditions, blah, blah, blah. And so we said, this is something that doesn't change, it's statutorily required, so we updated that. And then again, we went from a 42-page in 10-point font, mind you, general conditions document to a 24-page document in 12-point font. I did share the backup with the board. If you'd like me to, I can share this presentation. Overall, our intended results here is that it'll be stronger language where we want it, a little bit more flexibility where we need it, clarity for county project managers and for contractors that are engaging with us in business, shorter contract documents, which hopefully means that people will actually read the contract documents and not rely on procurement to interpret them, and then less operator error on our end of the table, because those general conditions will be a standalone document that remains consistent. And this is fully vetted by our county attorney's office. We worked with the county attorney, we worked with development services and public works on any of these revisions. So really that's my presentation of where we're at. I don't know if anyone has questions about the general conditions, and I would be remiss if I did not give some credit to Morgan Michaels, my procurement supervisor. He took the substantial deep dive in this and really tackled this document to try and make something that makes a little bit more sense and is more up to speed with what we're doing right now.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Supervisor Bishop?
I'm just curious, how long did this take you and Morgan to organize and come back with this amazing document that's half the size with bigger print?
Well, I will say that Morgan and I both focus on things in a way where we get hyper-focused on a project. So Morgan took this on as a project, and I think within 4 or 5 days, we went and talked to County Manager Sam Altiers and said, we'd like to undertake this, but we want your buy-in first, because we don't want to do all this work and then have you say, no, we're not open to making changes. But it was probably about a week or two of back and forth with Morgan and I before we thought it was ready to present to the county management. And then we presented it to county management and gave them a week to review, and then we presented it to you. So I'm trying to remember. I think I met with Sam in probably mid-May, and we had the final documents ready for department review in early June.
Wow, that's amazing. I just want to compliment Morgan especially, but you and staff and everybody that had a part in it. And I don't know if you've purchased a home lately, but I wish the real estate people could learn from your example and reduce those documents from.
You see the new contracts.
So thank you very much, Tara and Morgan, and
thank you,
everyone.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Yeah, I would like to echo that. Phenomenal job from our procurement department, our procurement director and her staff. We should never embrace status quo. We should never be satisfied with our previous best. And award-winning department every year, and I think a big part of that is just, being in a constant state of evaluation, and things change in every industry, including public procurement. So just want to say thank you for all of your hard work and for keeping our procurement department as one of the 1% in the whole country.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Johnson?
I have a comment, but I'll hold it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone
Madam
else?
Chair,
Yes.
just briefly, this was all triggered by Supervisor Johnson funding the software and the board approving this project. With that said, the general conditions and the process, our process was really outdated. So this was, from a technical and procedural perspective, this was necessary and timely. This substantially expands our automation and increases efficiency. And to that, we're very grateful to the board and to staff for getting us here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
I do have, if you guys want, I can actually show you the live portal, but I didn't want to take up time if you didn't want to see it. I tend to geek out over these things, so, but if you guys want to see it actually live on a website, I am able to share that.
Anybody
with
want to see the live portal?
you. If not, I can do it with you one-on-one also.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll come personally so we can ask questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there's no action to be taken here. And item 45, discussion and possible action, acknowledge receipt of and refer the Public Works a petition to the Mojave County Board of Supervisors requesting that South Lindero Drive from East Aztec Road to East Camino, Colorado, and South Reyes Adobe Drive, a looped roadway that connects to south and north ends of South Lindero Drive, both roads located in the Fort Mojave area with a combined distance of approximately 0.54 miles, be accepted into the Mojave County road system for regular maintenance.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 46, discussion possible action to approve exceptions to the general fund hiring freeze.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 47, to approve the recommendation of the county manager to appoint Melissa Palmer to the position of Mojave County Public Health Director effective June 29th, 2024, which is the beginning of pay period at range 29, step 9, or $117,832. And we do have a few people signed up. I think I missed Mr. Stang again. Greg Beffert for item 47.
Supervisors, for the record, Greg Beffert, and this goes to some of the things that I talked about earlier here today. I'm not here to judge the competency of the person that you're looking to put in this position. I'm not qualified to do that. But what I want to do is emphasize, before the selection that is made here, is that we have the World Health Organization and the CDC pushing bird flu. Now, if you aren't aware, which you should be, that's the next big push here. So whether it's bird flu, whether it's a false flag in the Middle East, and we're being pushed into war, these appointments by these unelected bureaucrats are extremely important. And we went through the last one during COVID-19. We've gone through 2 health department, directors in the interim here. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered that we're not privy to. Supervisor Bishop said that mistakes were made. We did some good things, and there were some things that we wouldn't do again if we had to. Well, we don't know what those are. There's been no after-action review of your response during COVID-19. There's been no review of that. You're not holding yourselves accountable, which is why I'm up here. And there's a biological agent, a gene therapy masquerading as a vaccine that is on the children's schedule here in Mojave County. Why? Why? You voted not to fund it. Nice. That's good. You have the best of intentions, according to your statements. This is political posturing. You have a harm here in this county. And Supervisor Bishop said, well, we basically gave we're notifying them, we're telling the parents you don't have to give your kids shots. You don't have to give your kids shots before they go to school. We shouldn't have to tell parents that these are a danger. The government shouldn't get involved in that. Well, where was the government involvement when it comes to coercing people to take these things or lose your job? So which is it? It's these contradictions, and the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. So my point here is that before, again, probably a very competent lady. That is not what I'm here to address. I want to know what steps you're going to take to fix the problems that you created last time with this bureaucracy. You had no authority to do what you did. Let's just get it out there. You had none. Governor had none. President had none. Fake authority. Proclamations. Executive orders. There was no law. There was no legal basis for any of it, and you know it now. So what do you intend to do? What is the new second in command during COVID-19 going to do?
Thank you very much, Mr. Beffert. Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, back again. Again, I'm not here to disparage the person that you are considering here today. However, I would just like to say that I think that a position this important and, as we've discovered, this powerful, is something that really should be put out for requests for qualifications. During Supervisor Bishop's COVID reign of tyranny, we had a health director who was not able to even answer your most basic questions, had to keep saying, I need to get back to you on that, let me take that under advisement kind of stuff. Then we hired someone who actually did have a medical degree, which was nice, but that didn't work out well either. But because of the influence of organizations like the WHO, the CDC, and things, I think that before we even contemplate hiring someone for this positions, as I've previously stated, I think this board needs to define powers and duties of the position so that in the event that we have another emergency, legitimate or not, that the board is the one who has set the powers that this person will hold. I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Also, Mojave County has a bad habit of just playing musical chairs with employees and not looking for maybe the best possible person for the job. Not, we'll just slide this person from this department up the ladder a rung, or we'll take this person from this department and put them over there where there's an opening. And, maybe we can find someone who will be the right fit for Mojave County. And if this person is the right fit, that's fine, but without putting it out for an RFQ or whatever the current term is that the county uses, I just think that it's maybe a little too soon to make that decision, and I would like you to really sit down and think about what the powers and duties are of the person you're putting in this position before you even decide who you're going to put in it, so that we don't have a repeat of the horrific mistakes we had just a few years ago. The fact that we had somebody that the public had to come in and basically give a nickname to, we don't want to go there again. Really, we don't. And it was such a mess that it really caused a large influx of residents to come and chew up this board's time in opposition to the person who held that position in the past. So we want someone who's not going to be controversial. We want someone who's going to be on board with our ethics and our belief in freedom and personal choice. And I would just hope that you would maybe table this decision and put it out and see if you can find someone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shelters, do you want to explain what the process was, please?
Madam Chair and board members, thank you. Yes, indeed, the public health director position has been vacant since April. Consistent with how we usually recruit for a director position. We advertised this position nationally for over a month. Received 14 applications, reviewed them thoroughly, and including myself. I reviewed every single position, Madam Chair and board members, and decided to interview 4 candidates. We did interview 4 candidates, and again with what we do, had a panel in place. The panel had 4 other directors on it. That includes finance, procurement, HR, and then risk and emergency management. Ms. Palmer is our top candidate. Ms. Palmer possesses the experience and credential. She's got a bachelor degree in health and master's degree in public administration and health sciences. She has served as an interim director twice after the departure of Ms. Burley, and then currently serving as the interim director since the departure of Dr. Kingsley. She's been employed with Mojave County for a period of time. She's committed to this position. It's my judgment that she has the passion and the experience and the commitment to carry on. She does have the support of her staff, and it is my pleasure and strong recommendation to the board to appoint her as the next director of the Public Health Department.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Manager Elters, are we actually approving your choice? Or are we approving the salary?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Gould, thank you for that clarification. It is my understanding, it's my job to recommend to the board, and the board approves the salary. Thank you for clarification.
That's a point, yeah.
Well, it says that, but that doesn't make it reality.
Okay.
And I know sometimes we had some conversations over whether we're approving the choice or approving the salary. Does the health department director have any power that does not flow from the Board of Supervisors? I do not believe that they do.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Gould, no, thank you. And indeed, the public health director, no more than the public works director, no more than development services, the job duties and functions are established for that position and approved by the board. And as you know, any decisions the department take on comes before the board for approval before we move ahead with it. So their power is allocated or designated or given to them by the Board of Supervisors.
So the decisions made by the health director during the so-called pandemic were the health director carrying out the wishes of a majority of the board. Do you not believe that she was carrying out her own wishes?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, and Supervisor Gould, you're absolutely right. You were here, and if you recall, during that ugly period, the board met twice a week for the public health director and myself to update the board on what was coming through. There were a lot of uncertainties at that time. Not every question had an answer, but we communicated with the board frequently, and the decisions that the public health director carried forward were made at the board level, and the public health director and the department, including myself and other departments, carried them forward.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Bishop.
I just wanted to make a comment in regards to what Mr. Befford suggested, that we do a post-COVID review. I know that's not on the agenda, but I'd like to see that on a future agenda. Maybe Ms. Palmer, if she's approved by this board, along with the county attorney's office, could do some kind of a post-COVID review. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And under what authority? I would love to see this finally put together in a document and put at rest. And with that, I'll make a recommendation that we approve Ms. Palmer as our new public health director, effective June 29th, 2024, at the range of 29, step 9.
Second, I have some comments, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and this is for our attorney. Am I misguided in the fact that we have no say over what was really done during COVID? This was passed down by the feds and the state. We're an arm of the state. We can only do what they tell us we can do. So we're kind of acting like we had a say. Is that correct, Mr. Estes?
Chairman Angus, Supervisor Johnson, it's a complicated question. Or a complicated answer. During the COVID emergency, there was a number of proclamations that were issued from the governor, for example, that we had no choice but we had to follow. The state law required us to follow those, and we followed those. And I can go into a lot of details about that, but I don't know if that's necessarily the time right now to do this. It's not on the agenda to go into detail with that. I do want to circle back, though, real quick with one of the questions that was asked, and just to clarify about the duties and responsibilities of the public health director. It's absolutely correct. The public health director answers to the county manager, just like you guys described. The county manager answers to the board of supervisors. But there are some, just so that we're clear, there are some statutory roles and responsibilities that the public health director has. Those are in Title 36. Those are things that the public health director can do outside of what the board here says, or the county manager says. Specifically, just looking at so this is Title 36, Chapter 1, Article 4. They talk about local health departments. And there's also agreements that the county has entered into, approved by the board, that give the health director authority to enforce some state laws and things from the State Department of Health. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that there are those things that take place. But of course, the public health director, again, answers to the county manager then answers to the board of supervisors. So there's still that oversight of what they're doing. But just to be clear, the statutes do give the authorization for things like health inspections, notice of violations when there's unsanitary premises and things like that. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Supervisor Johnson?
I guess a little bit it answers it, but a lot of people are putting pressure on the board, saying the board had all this authority. The board had no authority. It could have been changed by the governor, who was a Republican, or the legislature, Republicans, and given us the direction. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, maybe this is why we should put it on a future agenda. So there seems to still be confusion going on. So we'll leave it at that. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I might remind the board that the majority of the board, excluding me, voted to accept the governor's money to enforce his rules. I don't believe that we were legally bound to do that. If the governor, he has his own police force, it's called the Department of Public Safety. If he wanted to enforce his rules, he could have sent DPS up here to enforce his rules.
Exactly. This is not really on the agenda now. Okay, so where are we? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 48, this is brought by me. Discussion possible action, receive an update and review the status of Mojave County hazardous waste disposal events for the public from Environmental Quality Division of the Development Services Department. So I brought this back on June, but there was a confusion about time. And what happened was Bullhead City Fire Department contacted me with some concerns about the county not fulfilling this, what I believe, obligation. So I asked them to come and tell us what their concerns are. And so if either Chief Pat Moore or Assistant Chief Scott Neal would come up and kind of tell us what's going on down there.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Scott Neal. I'm the Logistics Chief for Bullhead City Fire Department. I do appreciate the time in speaking on this matter. So I've been in Bullhead for 12 years, and in that time I have been part of about 20 of these household hazardous waste events. So I'm speaking from firsthand experience on not only the good that they do, but the impact that this perceived funding issue is having. So to give you a little frame of reference, approximately 400 vehicles pass through our 5-hour stint each time we have this event, which bring across 50,000 or so pounds of household hazardous waste in various forms. And that number is only growing. And so now that these events have been diminished or potentially eliminated, that 50,000 pounds of waste is going to go somewhere. We don't know where. Of the 400 people who come through, it's only going to take one or two of them becoming frustrated or disgruntled with the lack of an outlet to take their items and take them somewhere we don't want them. They could end up in the river, they could end up in the desert, they could end up in the regular trash that ends up in the landfill. Be that as it may, wherever it ends up, it could potentially threaten the area that it's dumped and cause a much more expensive endeavor in cleaning it up than what we were paying in the household hazardous waste events. And I'm not even talking about what's going through Kingman. I don't know the numbers there or the amount of people that are going to be affected, but I'm guessing it's a similar amount that we have in Bullhead. And this is not a Bullhead or Kingman problem. This is a Mojave County problem because these people are going to drive 5 miles outside of town and do these things. Or they're going to dump in a river. It's going to end up somewhere that it's not in Bullhead or Kingman. So the bottom line is I, for one, am asking the board to consider finding the funding necessary to hold these events twice a year. They're very important to our areas, to our natural resource that brings people to live in this area. And you look at any natural environment and disaster that happens out there, oil spills or some type of hazardous waste, Love Canal out in the Midwest, those things cost a lot of money to clean up, much more than you might find one of these events costing the county currently. So, I'm asking this board to really consider, whatever it takes to get the funding back to where it needs to be.
Mr. Neal, when was the last one of these in Bullhead City?
Last December, we held one, and it was a little late. Normally, we hold them in late October, early November as the fall event, and then we didn't have a spring event, which is usually in April. So we're going on, 7, 8
And what
months.
was the reason you were given for the April event not happening?
Initially, it was kind of unofficially said there was no funding for the event. It was costing too much to procure the contract. And
okay.
Then an email came out not too long ago kind of securing that idea. And I've always thought that this money came from the regular trash disposal rates that are set for everybody, and therefore the rates didn't change in that little area and therefore didn't keep up with the amount it costs to do the event.
Okay, so with those questions in mind, we have somebody from Development Services. Okay.
Yes, hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. Definitely, we see a huge value in these programs. Sorry, I get some feedback. We definitely see a huge value in these programs and have seen the benefit that comes out of them. Definitely do not want to discontinue them at all. The funding does come from the landfill. We get 67 cents per ton of waste that's disposed at the landfills, both the Kingman landfill and the Mojave Valley landfill. We budget each year to hold at least 4 events, 2 in Kingman, 2 in the Mojave Valley area. So we have that goal to do 4 events each year. We've noticed that the popularity of these events and the cost of these events have been increasing. We have slowly been increasing the budget each time as well, each year that we hold these events. This past event in December of 2023 ended up costing significantly a lot more than the past events and rendered us unable to hold a spring event We addressed this issue with our current budget. We went and basically doubled the amount of funding that we were previously giving to these events, and just had it approved for this upcoming budget for FY25. We are in the works of planning the next fall events and the spring events, and should have plenty of funding to move forward.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may add to that a bit. The appeal for these events has substantially increased, and with that, the cost increased as well. So it was literally a budgetary issue. We ran out of those funds for that last event to be held. But just to give you an idea, it is in the FY25. There's 300K. We've literally doubled it from 150, 160 to 300,000 for these events. It's hard to plan for them because we don't know who's going to show up and how much they're going to bring. And then ultimately, we, the county, through a contract, collects it and disposes of it properly. But the cost of it has increased simply again because more and more has come in.
Who makes the decision to cancel it? I mean, I know you have money, but should that have been brought to the board? And if we thought it was important enough to find some money somewhere for it?
That's a good question. I sincerely don't know at this moment. I think it was done at the department level. I don't really remember it candidly, or remember discussing it.
Okay, well, maybe
All I know-
Mr. Holtree does. Who made the decision to cancel it based on the money without it, so did you sign off on it?
I'm sorry?
Does someone have to sign off on it, or does staff get to just unilaterally say, well, we don't have enough money, so we're not going to do it?
Madam Chair, I did not sign off on it. I was unaware. I believe staff made a decision at the, I call it a field decision, meaning we ran out of budget. In fact, we depleted the budget that was set aside in FY24, and it didn't occur to them to bring it to my attention or to the board to say, can we have more funding? I think the staff, I'm speculating because I just told you I was not aware of it, that we would increase the budget in FY25 and carry on with these practices. But not at any time did we anticipate not doing it or doing fewer events.
But you did do fewer events.
No, I'm saying going forward.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm talking about that. I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again, that a decision like that at least should come to you, if not the board, for us to make a decision if we want to find the money somewhere, because this is an important event. So when is the next one in Bullhead City happening?
Madam Chair, that information is unknown at this time. Usually we get discussions going near the end of summer and talk about some potential dates that work for us and the Kingman folks. I'm going to pencil it in the end of October, early November, like we had in the past.
Okay.
But I will make a note here, now that we're going to go in upwards of 12 months without having one of these events, you can expect a massive response from the community once we do hold it and set the date. So this next one might be much more quote-unquote expensive than any of them we've ever had. We field several calls a day and upwards of probably 50 calls a month on this, now that it hadn't happened in so long. And what we're telling people to do as best they can is just hold on to the material until we have another date. And so that's what we hope people are doing. But, if they are doing that, you're going to have a double load coming in the next one.
Okay, so please, yes, okay, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Neal, do they take in used motor oil at these events?
They take in used motor oil. That's probably 50% of what we take in.
That was going to be my next question, is how much of it is used motor oil? So 50%.
It's a lot. Paint and used motor oil seem to be the highest volume. We have been seeing a lot more old gasoline come in, which is very costly to dispose of. But the two items I just mentioned are the most common.
A lot of the auto parts retailers accept used motor oil.
They do. We have sent people in that direction, but what we're finding is they're full or not accepting it anymore in many cases. So people are going there with mixed results, depending on how much they have. If they have just one 5-quart jug, they might take that. But when someone comes to our events, they might bring 20 5-quart jugs, and that's not going to work at AutoZone. They don't have that kind of capacity. They usually have one 55-gallon drum there, and who knows how full it is when they show up.
Sure.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
I've always had a problem with this. It seems to me we're getting to be where we're telling the people, oh, county will come and collect it. They're saying, be a good citizen, dispose of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Lake Havasu City used to pick up used motor oil when they did the curbside trash. And they quit doing that, I think, about 5 years ago. I don't know. I'm assuming it was a money issue with Republic Disposal. But it was pretty useful, and I was disappointed. They gave us more recycling, which is a waste of money, because this material does not get recycled. It just goes to the Vegas landfill instead of our landfills, which I guess is a net positive. But personally, I like the oil pickup better. Just a sidebar note, it doesn't really have anything to do with it.
We haven't seen that here in Bullhead, so I'm not sure where that came from.
I think you guys Bullhead canceled their recycling program.
Yeah,
anyway.
we did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as of now, you're saying that we don't have a date yet, but you're expecting it to be in late October. So when is that date going to be confirmed so we can let people know, so they're not just always, because I get calls from people all the time to my office.
Right around August, the middle of August, we'll start talking about dates. We have to figure out if we have the staffing available, not conflicting with any other. Fall is when a lot of things start happening, and on the weekends especially. And so we have to work around things that the fire departments are doing already, as well as, if you're not aware of this, at least in our community, we bring in 10 to 15 potentially key club members from high schools. The kids come in and help offload the cars and learn a lot about stewardship of their community in the process, but it also takes the burden off of the companies coming in to have to overstaff to take that stuff from those vehicles. So it's kind of a win-win, and we put them in the protective equipment they need to, but we have to make sure that help is available as well.
Okay, so you got the information you need.
Yes.
And we're going to have one, and hopefully the county makes sure that it's funded well enough, because you suspect there'll be a much larger load of hazardous materials coming in.
Yeah, that's the expectation. If we have 400 cars on a regular, we may have 500 come through next time.
Supervisor Bishop?
Madam Chairman, I was just wondering if the fire department didn't have any funding that they could put toward this so that we could do a joint.
I guess what you would look at here is we provide sort of an in-kind donation with our staff. This really isn't Bullhead's Fire's event. We hold it in Bullhead City, but we are there to ensure that it goes safely. There is a member of the county on property while this is happening. They're essentially in charge of the event, but we staff it so that there's less burden on the county or the community at large monetarily. So that is sort of an in-kind donation, if you will. But essentially, the fire department puts forward about $1,000 a year of cost toward the event as well. I'm not sure what that says to you, but that's kind of where we're at with it.
Okay, well, that's nice, but this is a countywide problem, so maybe the fire departments and maybe the city should toss some pocket change toward making it a success for the entire county. Just a thought.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
But the money does come from a fee from the...
Yes, Madam Chair, it was from the landfill discharge fees.
Okay.
There's certain, I think you heard 67 cents for every ton that is brought into the landfill that goes to erase, and then these activities as a result.
All right. So I think we're all on the same page now. Any
Madam
other?
Chair, may I ask one question
Yes,
of the county
please.
manager regarding the landfill overall budget? doubling the expense or the fund for those expenses, what does that do to the overall landfill fund?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Lingenfelter, the landfill budget is healthy, and we've built a good balance over the years. Lately, we're with expenses throughout going up. We're breaking more even, but we do have a good, healthy fund balance in the landfill that can afford it. We just, again, projected based on last year's cost and what we think it would take this coming year. He makes a good point. The skipping 1 year could increase that cost, and if it does, and we run out again, I guarantee you we'll come back this time to the board and we'll ask for, but the landfill can't afford it, Mr. Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I appreciate that. And it is difficult to budget for something like that because you don't know what your demand is going to be.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Okay?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question for the county manager. How is our closure program? Do we have enough money for closure?
The closure program, which was going to be my question too. If we paid back the money that we borrowed from the landfill to balance the budget.
Madam Chair and Supervisors Johnson and Bishop both, you're right. The fund balance in the landfill is designed for landfill future closures. And yes, we recommended to the board that we borrow from that fund balance to lower the county exposure to the PSPRS payments. The board approved it. We will be paying it back starting in FY25, but it's part of that picture is included in my comment to you in saying we have a healthy fund balance even with that activity underway. The landfill funds that were borrowed for PSPRS will be paid back over a period of time and before any closure is needed on the landfill.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Does that answer your question, Supervisor Johnson?
Halfway, I guess. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? And with that, there's no action to be taken, just informational. Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you. Okay, number 49, discussion and possible action require all departments that are complaint-driven get a name, address, and phone number of the complaint before spending Mojave County tax dollars to investigate. Again, this is back on it. I don't think we really fleshed this out enough. I'm getting some complaints about this, so can we have a little explanation about how we take complaints in Mojave County? I think I'll have the people speaking before that. We have two people signed up, Mr. DeShazer and then Jennifer Esposito.
Yes, Chuck DeShazer, Topak, Arizona. I have this, I looked back at the March 18th, item 42 that was brought by Hildy Angus to this board, and no action was taken back then. I have been pulling Freedom of Information Act on several properties over the past year and a half, probably a total of 40 properties, and not a single one has the initial complaint or any of the information documented. I have 3 or 4 videos where I've spoken with the head of code enforcement, Tom, over at Development Services, and he says that 90% of the complaints are anonymous, but yet I have to give my name, my phone number, my address, my email, just to find out this information and be told that our former head of Development Services effectively lied to you straight out, saying that this information would be available if anybody pulled a Freedom of Information Act. You can review it on the tapes from the March 18th. And it sounds to me, and everything is if we really need to get the people to give at least a name, an address, and phone number for a contact before we're expending all these government services and people's time, and we're paying people to go out and explore what's wrong with various properties in this county. On top of that, I believe that the government needs to keep better records, obviously, because I've been told straight up they don't have, whether it came in by telephone, by computer, a walk-in, or anything else, they can't find any of the complaints over there. Back when your clerk of the board, Laura, was working over there, I personally made 3 complaints against one property. I have since pulled a freedom of information on that property, and there's one existing complaint that is supposedly unfounded, and it says anonymous on it. I'm more than willing to give my name, address, and everything. You can check with your clerk of the board that she was sitting right there when I said, I'll sign whatever you need signed. And so it's a big runaround and illegal use of the documentation that you guys are doing. And it would really cut down on the number of complaints, I believe, if people had to step up. And if you want to put in there that, oh, people are afraid to give their information because of retribution or something, I believe we have a sheriff's department. It's not up to development services to do anything about it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito. If I walk into the sheriff's department and I file a non-emergency complaint, they require me to show my ID, to give a written statement, and to sign that statement, essentially under penalty of perjury. Now, whether or not they choose to share that information, I'm sure would be a policy the sheriff would have, depending on if it was a complaint that someone, might be violent or something where it might be a threat to me. But when I ran for the legislature, and I ran against Supervisor Bishop's chosen candidate, I had an anonymous complaint made against me by one of her supporters, and I've been raising this issue ever since then. I believe it was in that election cycle, Rick Armstrong was running against her for the Board of Supervisors seat for District 4, and he had 2 anonymous complaints made against him for that privilege, one with animal control and one with, I believe it was environmental quality or something. Now we have this race, and I received a phone call from Logan Marsh last fall, who said that he had an anonymous complaint made against him as a candidate. And, he was trying at that point to figure out who it was. Mr. DeShazer said at the last meeting at Call to the Public that he looked into that. Because that could be, these things can be construed as using county resources to influence the outcome of an election, which is a crime. And so apparently he was told that, no, it's anonymous and there is no record of the complaint. I believe that he said that, Mr. DeShazer said that about 90% of the complaints are anonymous. And essentially what you have a lot of times is just, pardon my French, pissing contests between neighbors. I don't like them, I file a complaint. Oh, they get mad, they file a complaint against me. Most of the stuff is unsubstantiated, just like the complaints that were made against me were completely unsubstantiated. Same thing with Rick Armstrong. I confronted Tim Walsh at the opening of the Mojave Community College technical training facility out at the airport industrial park, and I asked him on the way to the car about his statement to you that if we just filed the public records request that we would actually be able to get that information. And he told me, he said, well, we have to protect people's identity because, they might be afraid. And to that I say, you have a constitutional right to confront your accusers. Anonymous cannot testify against you in court. And you do not have a constitutional right to feel safe. Okay? So the burden of proof, being with the Constitution that everybody swears an oath to, you have a right to have that information. Who is making the complaint? Now, fortunately, in my situation, I got the dispatch tape and I knew exactly who it was. That person never been to my property, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, you want to say something? Come on up.
Supervisors, this is Joy Bancroft from Topak. I can honestly say, I think anonymous, I agree. You take no commitment to it. And in Topak, what we end up with is neighbors mad at each other, family mad at each other. I have people call me, can I have code enforcement because I want to get back to my so-and-so. So I say to even, same thing, when people want to not get involved with a criminal activity because I don't want to be afraid of retaliation. Well, the same thing happens with people calling each other on houses that have too many cars or have somebody living out of a RV. So I agree, it ends up just being the anonymous people are the ones that just want to get back at someone. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask, Mr. Esplin, what does the law say about these anonymous?
Chairman Angus, I was trying to look through the revised statutes to see anything. I don't know anything off the top of my head that specifically says that counties must require that the person submit their name, address, telephone number, contact information. So I can't find anything to that effect. I do know that there is a provision for the sheriff, the silent witness program, where we're not allowed to disclose names of silent witnesses when they participate in that program. And we've had that come up once before to the board here. So that's kind of a little bit different, little bit different area that I don't think what we're talking about here. If I remember correctly, though, when we've talked about this in the past, I thought there may be something that the state agencies are required to take the name, address, contact information, that they're not allowed to take, anonymous complaints. And I think one of my colleagues researched this issue, but she's no longer with us. She's no longer in the office. So I don't have the answer off the top of my head. And again, I was frantically searching through it to see if I could find anything. It looks like in some of the administrative regulations, some agencies require that you give your name and contact information. But I can't say definitively what that is. So.
Okay, well, this has been on the agenda now twice, so, okay. So what exactly is the county's policy for these kinds of complaints, not the sheriff? Who's here to talk on that?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Scott Wiltshire.
Okay. What's your policy?
I just wanted to speak on, as far as code enforcement is concerned and our building division, our policy is that we do accept anonymous complaints, and that's been the case since I've been here at the county, and I'm not exactly sure when that policy first started or when they started doing that. As far as I'm concerned, we would be open and happy to entertain any changes to that. I know the Public Health Division requires that they submit a name, address, and phone number, and we'd be happy to look into their process and how they do it, and whatever direction the board would like to go, we can move forward.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think I'm glad to see this on the agenda. If you recall back at the dark days of COVID, a lot of small businesses were just up to their ears in anonymous complaints. You had people driving around trying to be the eyes and ears of the state, and a lot of times the complaints were just, baseless. They dispatched people to go out and investigate something that wasn't even really occurring. So I'm for a little bit of accountability. If you're going to report something and you feel serious enough about it, then you should feel like you should stand behind that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Supervisor Gould? Supervisor Bishop?
So I have no problem with the responsibility to the complainant identifying themselves. And honestly, as shorthanded as we are, it'll make our job a lot easier because a lot of people won't complain because they'll be afraid of retaliation. So, maybe it's a good thing. But I'm leaving in December, so I'll let the other board members make the motion in second, and I'll follow with whatever the board wants.
Okay. Supervisor Johnson, any comments or questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't even have call of the public people identify themselves. I believe that's what Mr. Esplin said we can't do. Am I correct?
This is the call to the public?
He's making an analogy, to call to public, that you've said in the past that we can't make them give their information out.
Oh, but I can't remember what I've said. I may have.
Right, I think it's a little different.
You say a lot of
You're
things. and
talking
so I
about
can't.
people complaining about somebody else. I mean, they're here, they're on video. If you wanted to find them, you can find them, who they are.
Madam Chair, I think, it's just my opinion, that both public testimony at the podium and then also when you give a complaint, it's a form of public testimony as well. So they should all be given their name and address and phone number.
Okay, so how does the board want to continue with this? Do you want to make a motion right now to change our policy?
I'll do it. Madam Chairman, I move that the board require that development services obtain name, address, and phone number from complainants making zoning complaints.
Do I have a second?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Would Supervisor Gould consider including in his motion, just to protect against any next major outbreak that would be announced, that any public health complaints would also fall under that?
Madam
Chair.
Yeah. Oh, I let women first.
Take Scott.
Okay. Mr. Holtree?
Yeah, I'd just also include, if we can include building division as well, that we do receive quite a bit of complaints with our building division.
So on this action, it says require all departments that are complaint driven get a name. Is that?
Yeah.
Is there a reason? Okay. So do you want to change your motion?
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
What?
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
It's clear where the board is going with its thoughts, and I respect that. Would the board entertain just making it a countywide policy? Period. Any department?
Yeah, any form.
Just, that would be the board policy countywide, and staff will enforce it accordingly.
Is that different than what he said about complaint driven, any
I
department?
limited it to development services originally.
Right, but we were changing it.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that says that all departments of the county shall obtain name, address, and phone number of people making complaints for enforcement.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll second. Just want to clarify that obviously doesn't include silent witness and those types of programs.
Except where prohibited by law.
Thank you. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second.
And Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes.
If I could just add, I found that statute I was looking for the state, and I think it only applies to the state, but it's 41-1010, and it says, notwithstanding any other law, persons shall disclose the person's name during the course of reporting an alleged violation of law or rule. During the course of an investigation or enforcement action, the name of the complainant shall be a public record, unless the affected agency determines that the release of the complainant's name may result in substantial harm to any person or to the public health or safety. So that's for the state. And I've discussed it with my colleagues before about whether it applies to the county. It's not clear to me whether it would apply, but it looks like it's just for the administrative process, for the administrative procedures for the state.
All right, we have a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
How do we verify the names? Do they have to come in and show ID?
Anyone?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think under the motion that staff could basically take that policy vote and bring back the administrative details.
You can add the word proven.
Well,
Madam Chair, if I could make a comment.
yes.
I mean, part of my district is so remote, it would be nearly impossible for the folks to be able to come in and show identification. I think if we have a name, an address, and a phone number, we should be safe to assume that that person will answer that phone and lives at that address, which could be checked, I guess, with the assessor's website. But I mean, if we're going to make a person show proof of who they are just to talk to somebody about an issue, I think that's an overstretch.
Right. Our idea is to make it fair, not to make it difficult for people.
Yeah, it almost sounds like we're not wanting complaints to come into Mojave County, so.
Okay, so we still have the motion, and we have a second. Any further discussion?
Have Laura read back the motion.
Yeah, read back the motion.
Just a moment. Okay, so what I have is that all departments of the county shall obtain address and phone number of people making complaints for enforcement.
Have name in there also?
I'm sorry, yes, name. Shall obtain name, address, and phone number of people making complaints for enforcement. And there was a second to that.
Do we want to?
That's not prohibited.
As you go, just a moment, as I'm going down the rest of the.
Should we add to be verified before enforcement action is taken?
No. Okay, so it will be
legal presence in the United States.
Okay, so we're.
So so it is name, address, phone number of people making complaint, as except for where prohibited by law.
Okay. Okay? Is that all right?
That works.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Wait, did he come in at the end for against it? Okay, so it's 4-1 in favor. Thank you. All right. Number 50, discussion possible action, authorize Keller Roebuck to move to amend Mojave County's complaint in the multi-jurisdictional opioid litigation to include the following defendants: Albertsons, Erloff Farm, in whatever, I can't pronounce them, chosen to Bellwether to litigate the case. The county must be prepared to spend the time and money necessary to litigate the case against each defendant. Go right ahead.
The county attorney's office recommends approval of this. I've also consulted with our outside counsel, Keller Roebuck. They also recommend that we do this. It's not uncommon to amend the complaint through the course of the litigation here. Additional defendants have been identified, and this way they'll be included in the case. The reason why that last sentence was on there is because the judge in the case admonished all participants to be clear, hey, if you're going to be named as a bellwether in this, you need to be ready to spend the time and money necessary to litigate the case. Apparently, according to our attorneys, some plaintiffs weren't willing to do that. They would put their name out there, but then when something came up, they quickly withdrew, and so the judge was a little bit frustrated with that. So they wanted to make clear that if you are named as a bellwether, that you will do that. Well, a couple of things here. One is when we signed up for this back in 2019, we were willing to do that, and we still are. We're still willing. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is, and so that doesn't change it. This doesn't change it at all. The second thing is the likelihood that we're going to be named as a bellwether is very, very low. I mean, it's really, really low that we'll actually be named a bellwether, so it probably isn't going to apply anyways. And the third thing is obviously that we don't know if this will actually go to trial or not. Many of the cases, many of the defendants have settled. That's why we've already gotten proceeds and we've got settlement monies. So there's a lot of things that would have to happen before the county would actually be named as a bellwether.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second for discussion. So am I to understand this, that now this original lawsuit that we got a multi-jurisdictional, now they want to go after other companies, bankrupt them, ring them for everything they got?
No, I don't think they want to ring them for everything they got. I mean, that's a pretty broad statement.
We've already put people, I don't know. I'm a little uncomfortable with this, honestly.
You don't have to. You don't have to vote for it. I just put it out there.
I'd like to hear from Supervisor Johnson, because he had a lot of opinions about this and where it might lead when we first entered it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the same concerns you did. I don't think that any of these pharmacies forced drugs upon anyone. Didn't force people to take them, and I think the whole thing,
Yeah. Anyone else? What I wanted to say was, at the beginning, it was this kind of noble, and it was the drug manufacturer, and now it just feels like it's just a money grab all around, looking for anyone who had any attachment to this, this horrible thing that happened. But at the end of the day, we know that people chose to take them, and there is a lot of help out there. So I don't know if I think I want more time to think about this. I haven't really researched it. Do you have to know immediately?
Yeah, the deadline, the deadline they've given us is a really quick turnaround. That's why I put it on today's agenda. Let me just pull it up real quick.
So if we say yes to this today, then we are on the hook for monies if we become a bellwether.
I'm sorry?
So tell me what this hooks us into today if we say yes on this.
It hooks us into exactly what we did back in 2019. In 2019, we filed a lawsuit against manufacturers and distributors of opioids, and it's the exact same thing, except here it's additional defendants. So it puts us in the same position. Back in 2019, when the board decided to do this, they said, hey, we're going to stick our neck out here, and we will litigate this if we're called upon. And so it's the same thing. It's just this time there's different defendants. These are lower defendants. These are defendants that don't have the same kind of resources. They may have different defenses and things. And so if you're not comfortable with that, then vote against it, and we don't have to. We will not receive any settlement monies if there are any from these particular defendants.
Right. Well, again, the settlement money we got from the bigger ones, I was disappointed in. It goes by, of course, Maricopa and the state, and everyone got. Now they're balancing the budget with the opioid money that came from that, and I don't know. I will go with the will of the board, but I'm a little concerned about this.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
The finance director has warned this board that we are still looking at a deficit in our budget years going forward. So I see no harm in the opiate money helping out with things related to opiate so we can spend our tax dollars on other things. I mean, we're not getting out of this hole that we find ourselves in. So every little bit helps.
It's for specific things, as we learned, as we've been giving this money out in the forms of grants. First, we were told we were going to get the 10 million, then it was like 10 million over 10 years,
Yeah, we have the reach out program though, and we have the health department. It helps those programs, so.
All right. Okay, so you want to make a motion on that?
I think
I made the motion.
Oh, there is a motion. And was there a second?
Seconded it.
Oh, I seconded for discussion, but I will keep that second. Okay.
Chairman, I apologize. So I found that email. They need to know by July 5th. So they need to know by Friday.
Okay.
That's why we have to make the decision today. The other one is they sent a follow-up email that I looked over. There's also 2 additional defendants that need to be added as well. Express Scripts and Optum RX need to be included in that as well.
Express Scripts have to do with this?
Madam Chairman?
Yeah.
They all made a profit off of the lie that was told to people that if they really had pain, they would not get addicted. That's the basis of the whole lawsuit, is they went around selling the opioids, claiming you weren't going to get addicted. So they all made a profit. I don't feel any harm in extracting that profit back from the people that made a profit on it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
And
Any further discussion?
Chairman, if we could add to that, add those two additional defendants as well. Express Scripts and
Okay.
the other one
Madam
was...
Chair, I would amend my motion to include those two additional.
Thank you.
Okay, and I amend my second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. If there's nothing else,